I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Urbana City Council, which was rescheduled from March 11th, 2024. Today is Monday, March 18th, 2024. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Miss Wu.
Here.
Mr. Evans.
Here.
Miss Hersey.
Here.
Miss Colasetti.
Here.
Miss Bishop.
Here.
Miss Woken.
Here.
Mr. Quisenberry.
Here.
Mayor Marlin.
Here. Next item on the agenda is approval of minutes from several previous meetings. These include the January 2nd, 2024 City Council meeting, the January 2nd, 2024 Committee of the Whole minutes, January 8th City Council minutes, the January 16th Committee of the Whole minutes, and the February 5th Committee of the Whole minutes.
I move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Mary Alice, seconded by Sharice. Is there a correction? Yeah.
For the February 5th meeting, it says there was no public input. Is that correct?
There were 2 meetings on February 5th.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yep.
Any substantial corrections? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed? Those minutes are approved. Are there any additions to the agenda? None. We'll move on to presentations and public input. Tonight we have 2 presentations. The first is from Skaters for a Skate Space, Andrew Valentine and Brian Dunn, and then there will be a presentation by City of Urbana staff member Braden Belcher on the City of Home and the Urbana Home Consortium Annual Action Plan. So we'll have the skaters come first.
I got it.
And they'll be introduced by Chris.
Okay, tonight we're going to have a skateboard presentation by, I thought, Brian Dunn, Andrew Valentine, Jonathan Robinson, and Tanner Coleman, but okay, that's fine.
Could you make sure your microphone is on?
Yeah.
And please state your name for the record.
Yeah. And they'll be representing Skateboard Collective Positive Push. They will be explaining why there is a need for a space to skate in Urbana, how little it will cost to get one running, the exact space skaters want to occupy, and what great things it will do for the city. With that, you have the floor.
Hello, my name is Brian Dunn. First, I want to say that we need a ceasefire in Palestine and we need a free Gaza. Beyond that, I want to
Please allow the speaker to speak.
I want to thank City Council for allowing us to come here today to talk about why we think it would be a great idea to dedicate one of the many parking lots to a space for skateboarding. Boop, 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 boop. So basically, all we're asking for is a space in a central location, so somewhere by downtown, because that would just make skating more convenient for everyone from all sides of the community. Space that we're not going to get hassled for skateboarding, because that deters a lot of skaters. Right now, if you want to skate in Urbana, there's not really a legal spot, especially if you're in downtown Urbana. So there's just not a lot of opportunity for skateboarding without worrying about getting in trouble. A place where we can build and change the obstacles ourselves. And so this is kind of like a DIY skate space. And with this, we'll be able to actively reflect the current skate community. Like if you look at the Spalding Skate Park, it has all these giant ramps and transitions. Not a lot of people skate that stuff. And if you look at the stuff that people actually skate, it's the stuff that we built ourselves and brought into there. And then basically we just need a place that Urbana isn't going to tear down. So a place that We've had a lot of DIY skate spaces around the community before. Usually they only last like a couple months before they get torn down. So that's just the last request, is that it's a space that Urbana doesn't tear down, which, is just don't spend resources to take away the space. So we spent a few weeks kind of surveying different city-owned parking lots. We identified 2 that we think would be really good for this skate space. So this one right here is kind of just north of 25 O'Clock Brewery. And this is Andrew's slide. He's coming up right now. What up, Andrew? All right.
Okay.
You ready? You're on, bro. This is your slide.
Lot 25, on, what do I place?
And I take it you're Andrew Valentine?
And this is Andrew Valentine.
Hi, I'm Andrew Valentine. Lot 25 off of Ray Street, caddy corner from Silver Creek, is consistently empty. There's great lighting. The only residential building that touches the complex, or touches the parking lot, is the blue complex. There's bushes and a fence line that separates them. We're aware skateboards make noise and we're happy to skate according to sound ordinances. The lot is near the skate shop, allowing skaters access to quick and easy maintenance. It would be a perfect location for skate lessons. Lot 24 would be an adequate substitute. It's just south of Lincoln Square, across the street off of Illinois. People who don't enjoy traditional sports will regular the DIY space for exercise. Skate obstacles / spaces are desirable locations for artists to paint. Keeping the paint off buildings company owners don't want paint on. People will meet new friends of different backgrounds, demographics, ages, and cultures. These same friends become lifelong friends because skating is something you can do for most of your life.
This is Jonathan Robinson.
Hi guys, I'm Jonathan Robinson, a local skateboarder. Some examples around the community we are trying to replicate into this space that we're asking for. With this space, we plan to promote local artists to come and express themselves freely. Huge shout out to Chris. He kind of gave us the idea due to the SIP yard being permanently boarded up. Artists in this town are being deprived of a safe space to create beautiful work like you see in this slideshow. Spalding Park Skate Park is a prime location of what we would like to replicate into Urbana. Artists, skaters, scooters, old people, young people, all are welcome to express themselves freely at Spalding by creating DIY ramps and painting the walls inside and outside of the environment. Urbana desperately needs a location like this, a location that we can create and customize together as a community to our liking. Some barriers and obstacles to skateboarding in Urbana. There's quite a few obstacles to being a skateboarder in Urbana. For starters, an hour-long walk from this building would get you to the nearest skate park, possibly a 40-minute bus ride depending on the day. Campus Town isn't too far, and is a good place to skate. However, most places don't allow skating, so getting kicked out by authorities is a constant battle. Campus Town is still also pretty much Champaign. That's not Urbana. The Civic Center used to be a parking lot where we could skate in Urbana in large groups or smaller groups, but this space has been under construction for like 2 years, and we still got kicked out about 50% of the time while we were there. We as skateboarders don't have anywhere in Urbana where we can express ourselves freely without the worries of being kicked out by some kind of authority. If we just had an open parking lot provided by the city where you guys wouldn't kick us out, would make being a skateboarder in Urbana more manageable. As of right now, we gotta take all of our skating to Champaign though.
Okay, skateboarding in our community. Okay. Skaters from Hoopston, Decatur, Danville, Effingham, and Peatone all make it a point to visit our skate shop in Urbana. These same skaters will benefit tremendously from this DIY skate space. Skateboarding is a solo activity, but there's nothing better than skating with your friends and teaching each other. I've helped my friends Claire and Tristan with their kickflips and Zeke and Coy with their shove-its. The joy I see on people's faces learning on their skateboards is one of the best feelings I've felt. The scene here is strong. Due to UIUC, the students and faculty from countries such as Japan, France, China, and Brazil would all visit and use this space when it's available. Chicago has a tremendously strong skate scene, and many skaters from the Chicago greater area attend school here and will benefit from the space. Most importantly, skaters from Urbana, Champaign, Savoy, and other small towns within an hour or two drive will benefit because in Central Illinois we're starved for proper resources to skate. Because people from all over the world find themselves in Champaign-Urbana, this in turn has created a vibrant skate community here. I wanted to say thank you to Chris, Jaya, Grace, and Mayor Diane for supporting us. Skateboarding is for all ages. My good friend D'Angelo, who's 35, has a 2-year-old daughter, and all three of us make it a point to skate on weekday evenings. I have another good friend named Richard. He helps out a lot with the shop. He's a young, healthy dude, but he's pushing 60 years old. He still makes it a point to go on long-distance skates.
So the benefits of a skate park, we've gone over this through a lot of the public comments throughout the past, and it really is just all about giving people a third space, a space that's outside of work, that's outside of school, that's outside of home, that they can come and build community. And the importance of it being in a central downtown location, I think, can't be overstated. The fact that if it's somewhere that you can go skate and then you can, go shop and then you can go get food all at the same time without being reliant on a car or rides, I think that would be invaluable. You got this, Tanner. This is Tanner.
I'm Tanner Coleman, part of the youth. As a member of the youth myself, skateboarding is a great form of exercise. It helps you get to where you need to go, relieve stress, and connects them to others. For example, there's lots of diversity in the skate community, and the more diversity you get, the more a person can grow. The youth can learn to persevere through failure, celebrate success, and build resilience. Having a skate space in Urbana would make it more accessible for a guardian of a parent to drop them off, or having the kid just skate there themselves rather than having to drive all the way to Champaign to safely skate.
It will cost the city very little, arguably nothing, to allow us to create a skate space, and it will lower the crime in the area, putting less stress on public defenders. This DIY skate space will steadily increase traffic to downtown Urbana. Traditional skate parks entice people to visit them no matter how long the drive is. However, a DIY skate space designed and built by the skaters themselves are appreciated in a class of their own. The aesthetic will be desirable for a high-level skater working on a company video. The same aesthetic may be perfect for an unknown upcoming artist who may have grown up down the street to film their first music video. It might make a perfect background for pictures, but it's definitely a tourist attraction. People will come, skate, and shop local.
That's our time. We want to say thank you one more time to all of you for letting us talk. And yeah, this is not instead of the Urbana Park District Park. This is a supplement to the whole thing. This meets a lot of needs that a traditional Park District Park can't meet. So that's why we're asking for a DIY skate space that we can create ourselves and that can reflect the community itself. Thank you.
Thank you. And the council has received the entire presentation, so we'll be looking at that and getting back with you. Thank you.
Are you doing questions?
We don't have time. But I'm sure they'd be happy to answer any emailed questions that you want to send. Okay. We'll get to. We'll move on to the second presentation, which is the City of Urbana and Urbana Home Consortium Annual Action Plan for fiscal year 2024 to 2025. Braden.
not clapping for me. Good evening, everyone. So tonight I'll be providing a brief presentation on...
Make sure your mic is on, Brady.
It is. Oh, can everyone hear me okay? Okay, I'll try to talk loudly. I'll be providing a presentation on the City of Urbana and Urbana Home Consortium Annual Action Plan for the upcoming fiscal year 2024 through 2025. So just to provide a brief roadmap of what I'm going to be presenting tonight to you, I'll start with an overview of the Annual Action Plan, talk a little bit about its purpose and what it does. I'll provide some background and detail about our home and community development block grant programs, which are covered under the annual action plan. And I'll talk about the resources from HUD that we're expecting this fiscal year. I'll then talk a little bit about the public input process that we've been undergoing for this plan. And then I'll touch on the timeline for approval and implementation of this plan. So many of you have been through this process before. We come to you every year with our annual action plan, which covers our home investment partnership funding for the Urbana Home Consortium and also the Community Development Block Grant Program. So the annual action plan, it will run from July 1, 2024 through June 30th, 2025, and it's part of our larger 5-year consolidated plan, which the primary purpose of which is to outline our goals and priorities for our HUD-funded activities. And I'll talk a little bit more about those activities in a minute. The annual action plan is also one of our best ways to respond to community needs. This time of year, every year, we go through a public input process to get input on our plan and to get input on those goals and priorities that we submit to HUD for our funding. So I'll talk a little bit more about how people can make their voice heard if they have input or ideas about how this funding can be spent in their neighborhoods to improve the community. So the plan itself is the draft version is available on our website. There are also hard copies available at the city clerk's office and at the Urbana Free Library. I'll talk a little bit more in a minute about how you can access the actual draft plan. It's a pretty lengthy document. So I just highlight here a couple key sections that I'll be touching on tonight that I think are important to highlight. So the AP 15 covers the resources and the budget for the funding we are expecting to receive from HUD in this fiscal year. That's on pages 11 through 15. The AP 20 outlines our goals and objectives that we are planning to undertake in the upcoming fiscal year with this funding. And then the AP 35 is proposed projects. So again, it's our opportunity to talk about the different projects that we're intending to fund with our HUD resources. So I just wanted to provide this as a little bit of context before I start talking about the programs that we fund. This comes up often. It can be a little bit confusing, but both of these HUD grant programs, the Home Investment Partnership and the Community Development Block Grant, their purpose is to serve low to moderate income residents. So any program or any project that we undertake has to primarily benefit households that are low income. And so this is the chart that HUD provides. It's updated annually. So this is the version from 2023. In June, they will update these numbers, but you see here the range on the left-hand side of the screen. You see it's corresponding to family size and then percentage of area of median family income, which are those numbers that you see there. So 80% median family income is considered moderate income. That's sort of the high-end cap of households that we can serve with this funding, but typically, our programs primarily target low-income families, which are households at that 50% of the median family income. So we always try to reach out to those who are in the most need in our community and to provide resources to help them. So when I'm talking about low-income households or assisting people who are low-income, this is the chart that's based on. So you see for a family of 4, that would be an annual salary of about $48,350 annually. So in the 2024-2025 fiscal year, we are, again, as I said, expecting to receive a CDBG allocation as well as a home allocation. These numbers are just preliminary. We have not received our final allocation from HUD yet. That will probably be coming in the next couple weeks as the federal government finalizes their budget for the fiscal year. So these numbers are based on what we received last year. So our community development block grant will probably be around $500,000, maybe a little bit below. And then the home consortium, which receives our home funding, it's made up of the city of Urbana, city of Champaign, and also unincorporated Champaign County. We're expecting to receive just shy of $800,000 in home funding. So again, this will change. And just as a note, once we receive our final budget and we finalize our plan, the plan will be coming back to all of you for a final vote of approval before we submit it to HUD. So this is not the last time you'll see me. And when I have updated numbers, you will see that as well. So I'm just going to talk briefly about the differences between the Community Development Block Grant and the Home Investment Partnership Program. So the Community Development Block Grant is just for service to Urbana residents. It's a pretty flexible pot of money that we receive from HUD. Again, all CDBG activities must primarily benefit low to moderate income residents of Urbana. There's a variety of different service areas. We can fund public services. We can fund public facilities and infrastructure improvements. We can also support housing rehabilitation programs for low-income residents, as well as blight reduction activities. So in the current fiscal year, the 2023-2024 fiscal year, these are some of the accomplishments that we've undertaken with our CDBG funding. We have a long-standing housing rehabilitation program, which is managed by the Grants Division. We budget about $100,000 a year to fund this program to support emergency, accessibility, and senior repairs. Again, to low-income households. To date, so far in the fiscal year, we've assisted 23 households with a variety of different needs that they have in terms of rehabilitating their homes. We have our Youth Services Grant Program, which is also partially funded through the Community Development Block Grant. In the last funding cycle, we funded 13 agencies to provide services and programming to low-income Urbana youth. So we're very happy with that program and with the accomplishments that we've achieved. Just as a note, applications for the 2024-2025 application cycle are open. We're currently accepting applications, and that portal will be open until April 1st. So if there are any agencies that are providing services or programs to low-income Urbana youth, they are welcome to apply for that funding opportunity. Our Neighborhood Cleanup Day, again, this is a long-standing event that we have funded using our Community Development Block Grant. We do this every year in the spring. Our 2024 Cleanup Day will be taking place on May 18th. There will be more information about that as we get closer to that date. We provide junk drop-off services and also courtesy collection for seniors and individuals with a disability. And again, that event is for low-income residents to be able to drop off some junk that they might not be able to get rid of any other way. And then targeted infrastructure improvements. We have worked with Public Works over the past couple years to target the equity and quality of life areas that are in low-income targeted census tracts to provide minor infrastructure improvements such as sidewalk, curb improvements, as well as lighting. So that's another thing that we have funded with our Community Development Block Grant funds. So the Home Investment Partnership Program, the home funding, it's a little bit more restrictive than the CDBG funding. All home activities must result in the creation or retention of an affordable housing unit. So we can do that in several different ways. We fund our tenant-based rental assistance program with home funding. Down payment assistance is another eligible program area. And also the construction of affordable housing, either rental or homeowner housing, is eligible under the home program as well. So far in this fiscal year, we have provided TBRA rental assistance to the Regional Planning Commission and Courage Connection. In this fiscal year alone, we have $300,000 worth in TBRA contracts with both of these agencies. We have prior year funds as well that we are committing, but that's just the number that we committed with our 23-24 numbers. So we're very happy to be supporting rental assistance for low-income households in Urbana. We also used a portion of our home allocation for Bristol Place in Champaign, which is an unaffordable rental housing development. Homeowner housing development. And even though it is in Champaign, again, because the home funds are shared, we are able to support that. The first phase of Bristol Place opened in 2020, and they will be breaking ground on phase 2 of Bristol Place. Oh, am I subject to the 10 minutes? Oh, okay, sorry. I thought I had more time.
Is there a motion to extend time?
Move to extend 5 minutes.
5 minutes, okay?
Yeah, sorry
Okay.
about that.
I neglected to introduce Braden as the grants manager for the city of Urbana.
Sorry about that. Okay, accomplishments, public input process. Oh, sorry.
Sorry. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those-
If you need a second, I'll second. Oh, you guys seconded?
I thought we had a second. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed? That motion passes.
A lot of great accomplishments. You can ask me if you have more questions. Okay. Public input process. So far, we have held 2 public hearings to receive input on these community needs and how we can use these funds to improve our community. We are currently in the middle of our 30-day comment period, which started on March 23rd and will run through February 23rd, I'm sorry. We also currently have a community needs survey, which I'll share the link to that at the end, and anyone is free to fill that out. We get really great input from that. And we also did a mailing as well to residents requesting their feedback. We've also presented at a variety of community meetings as well. So our timeline, we hope to get the plan approved at our March meeting of the Community Development Commission. We will then be finalizing our plan, finalizing our budget. That will be coming to the Committee of the Whole for final approval on April 15th. And then our goal is final council approval on April 22nd. The deadline for us to submit to HUD is May 17th. And our program year will begin July 1st. So again, here is information on how you can submit your thoughts or your, on what we can use this funding for. Again, you can view the plan on our website. You can also contact us at the Grants Division, and we would definitely recommend you take our survey as well. So here's my contact information, and again, I apologize for going over time.
Thank you, Braden. And did you share your presentation with the council, or can you do that?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, we'll move on to public input. Again, a reminder, each speaker will have up to 3 minutes to speak, and if you wish to speak, please come up to the microphone. And again, please be respectful of those who are speaking and refrain from interrupting. Thank you. Please state your first and last name for the record.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Itai Segev, 410 West Florida Avenue. I've been here before, so I will keep this brief. First, I want to thank the council for considering the peace resolution contained in the agenda for this meeting. More importantly, I want to thank you for listening to the broad range of opinions in the community and not just to the loudest voices in this room. I have discussed the original resolution and my efforts to craft a more balanced one with a great many people, friends, co-workers, campus group, bar buddies, and so on. You might imagine that last group was the loudest conversations. Their responses almost uniformly fall into 2 broad categories. The first, and probably more common, is confusion as to why the City Council even feels the need to pass a resolution on this topic. The second is opposition to the original resolution and a desire for something more balanced. I truly believe this compromise better represents the views of our community as a whole than the original resolution presented to the Council. In short, I strongly urge you to support the peace resolution as currently written and urge you to pass it. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Derek Briles. I'm a resident of Urbana Ward 4, and I'm also here to provide comment on the peace resolution. And so like the previous commenter, I would first like to acknowledge the fact that you have listened to people, right? It's been a difficult process, but you listen to folks, you have a resolution, and I'd like to at least thank you for that. It might not be ideal, it might not be what everyone wants, but I do appreciate what you've done so far, and particularly Alderpersons Evans and Wilkin for their support and true leadership for the community that I think the rest of the folks on City Council could really learn from, as actually representing the voices of the people that they are supposed to represent. I would not urge you to pass it as is. It's not enough. It's better than nothing. I'm thankful for what it is, but it's not enough. I think you should definitely include language about the U.S. ending military aid to Israel. We are the biggest backers of the Palestinian genocide right now, and Israel could not do what they do without our support. And despite what the previous commenter said, it's not performative. It's not strange for you to do this. Echoing Daniel Chenoweth from before, right? This is a public safety concern, right? Taking this stand is taking a stand for your Palestinian residents, for the people in this community that are directly impacted by this. And it sends a message to other cities in Illinois, and it sends a message to the federal government, right? We are here because you are our elected officials. This is not a useless or performative measure. We're expecting you to do the job that you were elected to do and represent us adequately. And I think, despite what some people might say, you're not capitulating to the loudest voices. You're just literally capitulating to the majority. The majority of Urbana supports the Palestinian people. The majority of the people of Urbana want a ceasefire in Gaza. I think that's very obvious. You can haul out a few Zionists that'll come up and speak, but they're few and far between. The majority of the people of this town support the Palestinian people. They're appalled by the genocide of the Palestinian people, and they expect their elected representatives to do something about it. So I urge you to draft more direct language about ending U.S. military aid. Include that. You have the ability to do that. You can call to add that tonight. I really encourage you to do that, and I really encourage you to understand this as a public safety issue in protecting Palestinian residents.
My name is Sam Froyland. I'm a resident of Ward 4. I came here to comment on, quote, a resolution calling for the end of the Gaza war and a lasting peace, end quote. My comment is simple. If you want end to the war in Gaza and you want a lasting peace, it would follow that you would need to end military aid being sent to Israel. I think there's comments about the performativity of the nature of these exercises of calling for the resolution. We can think about it like this in the raw economics. We have billions of dollars going to fund a military which is currently slaughtering people, many innocent people. And meanwhile, we have infrastructure here at home which is underfunded. We have schools that are underfunded. We have teachers that are not getting paid adequately, janitors, etc., all here in the city. If we are not giving so many dollars of our tax dollars to military aid, and instead we're using them at home to develop our actual communities, we're going to be thriving. And also we have the benefit of not killing Palestinian people while we're at it. So I think I call especially on my representative Jaya to support this, to add this to the resolution tonight, and I hope you add it.
Hi, my name is Tav Ashur. I'm a resident of Urbana. First, I want to address something from 2 weeks ago, specifically Council Member Grace Wilkin. You said that you sent me an email and I did not invite you to the meeting we had in the Urbana Free Library. First, I want to address that because I'm sorry. I did not understand from your email that you wrote in the email that this is the address where I can contact you. And I appreciated it, and I wrote you an email back. I just did not understand that this was a request to be a part of further meetings, so I apologize for that. The second thing is, I want to, just in case any other council person or people think that any of this process to get a resolution written up has been done in bad faith, please approach me, please talk to me, because I responded to all of the emails that were sent to me. I tried approaching people personally, in person, here, in this very room or the lobby. I approached people and asked them to be a part of it. And I really am willing to die on that hill of saying that this process was done in good faith, trying to approach also the interfaith program, getting people from the Muslim community. I really think that this process was done in very good faith, and we did all we can to make sure that everyone is represented. I do want to say one thing based on the previous speaker or previous speakers. The ending military aid to Israel is something that did come up during the discussion in writing up the resolution, and I was actually the person who was opposed to it, and there's a good reason for that. I basically said, I mean, I don't know how many people in the council know it, but for example, in 2021, there was a law that was proposed in the Iranian parliament that Iran must destroy the Zionist entity by 2040. I think that Israel is the single country which has the most organizations and countries dedicated to its destruction worldwide. I mean, obviously, the Gaza Strip is controlled by a terrorist organization who wants to, it's in the charter, to destroy Israel. We have Lebanon, who is basically controlled by Hezbollah, who want to destroy Israel. We have Iran, who want to destroy Israel. And I think I personally look at this and I think it's anti-Semitism just because it's not a call to end all military aid of the US to all of the world. I can understand that claim. We don't want to be a part of any war. But when people say specifically Israel, the single most threatened country on earth, not the country that kills the most people, not the country that launched the most wars, just the country which is threatened by most organizations and countries, for example, also Egypt that has opened a couple of wars against us, are a single military revolution away from doing it again. I think that this is anti-Semitism. It's my personal opinion, but it's my opinion.
Hi, Council. My name is Arthur Paganini. I am a resident of Urbana. I'm also a proud member of the Party for Socialism and Liberation and a proud member of the Graduate Employee Organization. Now, I don't know how many of you have reached out to the GEO about this. Oh, wait. No, you haven't. But I will tell you that last semester, we did have a vote on a ceasefire, and we overwhelmingly, the graduate employees of this community overwhelmingly voted for a ceasefire in Gaza. It was an 80% vote. Hundreds of our members voted. Okay, and these are members of our community. A lot of them live in Orchard Downs, and I'm sure a lot of them are here tonight. This is unequivocally something that the graduate employee community cares about, okay? I'm a steward of the union. I take great responsibility in my work, and part of my work means going to the people in my department, and I talk to them. I talk to them about their concerns or whatever, and I haven't gotten anything like that from the city council. But what we will know is that the graduate employee organization and the people of this community support a ceasefire resolution in Gaza, and the one that sits on this council is not perfect, like someone previously said. It's not perfect. So I would urge you to put an amendment to end U.S. military aid to Israel, okay? But I just want to reiterate that the people of this community who participate in democracy, like we're doing right now, the graduate employees who commit to participatory democracy by their constitution support a ceasefire resolution in Gaza. That's all I have to say tonight. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Alice Smith. I am a resident of Urbana. There are tens of thousands of people dead since October of last year. South Africa has repeatedly demonstrated before the International Criminal Court that there have been genocidal actions committed by Israeli soldiers and continue to be with either the complicity or acceptance by the Israeli administration. There is a mass famine in the making that is currently threatening millions of people in Gaza and would set off generational waves of genocide and trauma. The U.S. is complicit in all of this, despite all of the talk from our elected officials about two-state solutions or about a lasting peace process. None of that is going forward. We are supporting the current Israeli administration, who is unprecedentedly attacking Palestinians. The fact that the resolution for a ceasefire was taken out of the current resolution is evidence of that same cowardice by this city council. The ceasefire is the only realistic option, and the only way to move forward with this is to end U.S. military aid, and that has to be added to the resolution tonight. Thank you.
Hi, my name is, sorry. There we go. Hi, my name is Isabel Scott. I've been part of the CU community my whole life. I've sent several emails to the council, and I'm actually here tonight to physically add my voice to the calls for a ceasefire resolution. I know our community is good things, and I've seen it countless times. I see it here tonight in the people gathered here to support Palestine and our Palestinian community members. I ask that the council, as representatives of the people, do the same by passing explicitly a ceasefire resolution. This genocide has gone on for over 5 months. I had to actually do the math when I heard it because I couldn't believe it. Israel, with the United States' support, has murdered almost 40,000 Palestinians. 5 months of apocalyptic levels of violence, death, and destruction that no human is made to withstand. The people of Palestine deserve peace, and we owe them that peace as Americans because we pay for the bombs and the bullets. I ask you again to pass a ceasefire resolution using the word ceasefire that explicitly states no more funding should be given to Israel. The American war machine is robbing your constituents blind. A ceasefire is the only way to peace. You cannot promote peace in one breath and stay silent about genocide in another. Free Palestine, ceasefire resolution now.
Hi, my name is Catherine Consul. I am a citizen of Ward 2. I think that's how you would say that. It's very simple. We need a ceasefire. You're not stupid. I'm not stupid. So what are we doing here? I shouldn't be standing here right now speaking on this. Loved the skateboarding presentation. Let's have more of that. Let's end this now. End U.S. military aid to Israel. Directly call for a ceasefire and do your job. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Catherine Popetz. I've been an Urbana resident my whole life. I currently am a Ward 2 resident. So you walk past my house all the time. I just wanted to urge you all, add my voice to the chorus of people asking you to please be brave and to please add an end to U.S. military aid to Israel to your ceasefire resolution and make it an actual ceasefire resolution with the word. Thank you.
Hi, Urbana City Council. My name is Chibu Sonye, and I am an engaged citizen of the CU community. For the sake of Bisan from Gaza, who is currently on the beaches of Gaza starving and cold, of 13,000 children who have been martyred and killed, I am asking that you do pass this resolution. I would like an amendment to end all aid to all military aid to Israel in this resolution, and I would like those who can to ask to add the language of a ceasefire, because I do think it is important, and I do think that language needs to be very strong for what we're demanding, and that's exactly what we're asking for. We're demanding a ceasefire. Someone who has been here for several weeks now, I am thankful for the work of council members Wilkins and Evans, and so I ask that the other folks who represent us can please take on the mantle that they have placed and take on the amendments of ending military aid and adding the language of ceasefire, please. Thank you.
Hi there, my name is Dana. I'm an Urbana resident. And I also want to thank the members of the council who have been supportive of this process so far and for hearing us all out. The only proposed resolution to actually call for a ceasefire on behalf of the city of Urbana was read into the record at the council meeting on January 8th. The following day, I personally sent that resolution to the city council to ensure everyone had access to it. The reason why we did not have the resolution printed and ready to pass out on January 8th is because we had received pressure to not present it at all. We all witnessed similar pressure when Mayor Marlin started that meeting by asking Chris and Grace to strike the presentation from the agenda altogether. Since then, that resolution has been called everything from hateful and vitriolic to factually inaccurate to naive and inappropriate. At the last committee of the whole meeting, Mayor Marlin herself called that resolution, quote, shocking and extremely hurtful. As one of the co-authors of that resolution, I have yet to be provided with a single concrete insight to support any of these assertions. That resolution was written from a place of deep care and outcry against violence. It was written in direct light of language taken from the 2003 resolution passed by the Urbana City Council opposing the war in Iraq. It was written with the guidance of other ceasefire resolutions passed by communities across the country. It was not written in an echo chamber. Despite the many claims we've heard in this room over the past several months, that resolution unequivocally condemns the war crimes committed by Hamas on October 7th. It condemns anti-Semitism and Islamophobia in our community and beyond. It emphasizes the importance of hostage release and the direct and undeniable connection between ceasefire and hostage safety. The idea that our ceasefire resolution communicates hate feels so disingenuous it's difficult to comprehend. Most importantly, in light of the more than 30,000 people who have been killed over the past 5.5 months, so many of whom were children, that resolution calls for an immediate ceasefire and an end to U.S. military aid to Israel in light of this horrific and prolific violence. I can only hope that whatever resolution you pass this evening will do the same. Yes, you are but a council of a small middle American city with limited power and limited sway. But you are also one of the only accessible lines of action, symbolic as it may be, for so many in this community who feel desperate and broken as we witness an ongoing genocide. Lastly, as I mentioned as well on January 8th, my family members are the survivors of a genocide perpetrated by a country that denies to this day that a genocide against our people ever occurred. Denial cannot rewrite the truth, and it cannot undo the pain and the trauma in either direction. All pain and all trauma must be cared for and heard. Thank you.
I'm Brett Allen, here on behalf of Champaign-Urbana Democratic Socialists of America and in solidarity with all Palestinians. I'm here in support of an immediate ceasefire resolution and an end to all U.S. aid to Israel. Some argue that this issue is not relevant to local government, but I could not disagree more. The United States government is funding the genocide of the Palestinian people with our taxpayer dollars, and it is the duty of our elected representatives to act upon our desires of how our taxes should be spent or should not be spent. The Party for Socialism and Liberation, DSA, and our fellow anti-genocide comrades have put up with violence from Zionists during our peaceful demonstrations. Just outside City Hall after last meeting, one of our own was almost hit by a car that purposely sped up. And while 700 of us peacefully demonstrated in the streets of Champaign, an elderly protester was left with a cut and a concussion. Despite our disdain for Zionist violence, we have remained peaceful. Attending this meeting is yet another example of our attempt at using peaceful strategies. We have done our part. It's time to do yours. Ceasefire now and free Palestine.
Hello, Council. My name is Malika, and I'm a graduate student at the university. I'm nervous to be here as someone who was not raised here, but I have seen the power of the Urbana community and witnessed it firsthand at the march earlier this month. I am here to support the original, permanent, and immediate ceasefire proposal and an end to military aid to Israel. There's nothing I can say that hasn't already been said, and I don't know how you can listen to story after story of the worst atrocities committed against your fellow man and have the audacity to act exasperated and annoyed about it. The 30,000 dead don't get to feel annoyed. This affects all of us, and to ignore it is to set a dangerous precedent of what we as a people can tolerate. I think it should be prescient to all of you that those in favor of Israeli occupation speak of maintaining empire, and those in favor of Palestine have spoken of humanity and community. But perhaps if you won't care about people, you may care about property. Universities, not unlike the one I currently attend, have been completely destroyed, alongside the murder of Palestinian scholars, educators, and students alike. I came to this school to learn, and I find myself numb when I think of the breadth of knowledge lost, histories I will never know, and scholars I will never learn from. As a library sciences student, I have learned that an epistemicide is a systemic destruction of knowledge institutions. The Israeli occupation has been committing that too. Not just universities, but archives, museums, and libraries have been destroyed or damaged by airstrikes as well. This is not a measure of self-defense. This is ethnic cleansing and erasure of a past, a present, and a future. I know some of you maybe have seen memes about about mourning the burning Library of Alexandria, but what of this fire? As the wisdom of generations is put on a pyre, do you realize the magnitude of this loss? Entire lineages erased, entire families destroyed. And so I ask, does this council really believe in community, or doing the jobs you were hired to do, listening to your constituents? An immediate ceasefire is the least we can do. Thank you.
Hi there, Council. My name is Ben Jocelyn. First, I would like to say solidarity with the skateboarders. I hope you build their park. Second, I want to acknowledge the fact that we're here and there's a resolution on the agenda is a victory of the people. No matter what happens tonight, I want the loudest message possible from this community to go out to the people of Palestine that we send you love. We have been at this a few months now, and as far as I can tell, there's one group of people as the basic understanding that the United States government is actively participating in an ongoing genocide. We have watched too many children starve and lose limbs. We have read the final poem of too many poets. We have watched too many brothers carry their siblings to a place of final rest. And we've come before you to ask that you see us, that you see the people of Palestine, and that you say no more. No more. No more weapons, no more vetoing of ceasefire, no more bombing of Yemen, no more needless death. The other side has come to say, for one reason or another, that maybe we should stay silent. For weeks, the city has failed to bring forward the ceasefire resolution that was brought to you on January 8th. The mayor then eventually took up the process by a prominent ceasefire opponent and made the claim that it was a beautiful compromise where all parties had equal voice and equal access, while she also admitted that she didn't know who'd been a part of that process. She had been told that no Muslim voices were present, that no Palestinian voices were present, and she made that claim anyway. I urge all of you not to put that process on a pedestal. I urge you all not to both sides of genocide. I urge you all to amend this resolution. I want you to use this moment to speak clearly to the world that Urbana is a place where we do not support the U.S. war machine, that we do not condone the use of our tax dollars for the slaughter of precious children, men, women, and non-binary people wherever they live. Please add language to this resolution which acknowledges the U.S. role in all of this. Please add language which calls for an end to U.S. military aid to Israel. It, of course, would be better if you just sort of amended it by striking the resolution that's there and putting one that has the broad support of the community. But we've all been here too many times, and it is urgent, and I hope that you can pass something tonight. And to that end, ending funding for war is a crucial part of building peace.
Hello, my name is Timothy Chen, and I'm an Urbana resident. I believe the City Council should support the ceasefire resolution with my peers' recommended amendments, because I believe in not just representative democracy, but in the power of the people. As the EZLN in Chiapas, Mexico once stated, "Here the people rule and the government obeys." I believe that my peers and I have demanded enough, and it is time for the City of Urbana council members to obey. Also, since skateboarding was on the agenda today, I would like to highlight the message of Skate Pal, an organization in which volunteers help build skate parks in Palestine. And quote, they say, "In Palestine, there are a lot of things restricting us. One thing that really hit home is the concept of freedom, of movement, and of expression. Skating is a really raw, aggressive, in-your-face activity, and it feels like you break loose from all those restrictions because it's a loud sport. It feels like you're sending a message. Militarism and apartheid policy has limited the Palestinian people's rights to freedom of movement, and I urge the City Council to support the ceasefire motion to begin the vital process of restoring freedom of movement as soon as possible." And last time I spoke of the death of a New Orleans teenager who's a Palestinian American that was killed by Israeli militants, and I'd like to remind you, as you I believe you're patriotic. You cannot support a state that is killing American citizens. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sarah Blanco, and I'm a Champaign-Urbana community member. So everybody likes peace. I like peace, as I suppose all you like peace. Joe Biden says he supports peace and then sends more weapons to Israel. So we need to be specific and call for actions that will actually lead to peace and an end to the genocide. So I urge you to pass this resolution on the table with amendments calling for a permanent and immediate ceasefire and an end to all U.S. military aid to Israel, because the federal government is not listening to us, despite a ceasefire being overwhelmingly popular. So while we live in a supposed democracy, so please pass this resolution with amendments calling for actions that will actually lead to peace.
My name is Barry, and I'm a citizen from Champaign and a student at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. I'm demanding that you call for a permanent ceasefire in Palestine and end all U.S. military aid to Israel now. Just last month, a 6-year-old girl named Hind Rajab was killed by IOF tanks after being trapped in a car with her dead relatives. She was promised aid by Red Crescent workers who were traveling on a pre-approved route, only for the IOF to kill not only her, but both volunteers that tried to rescue her. This is only one of the many atrocities committed by the Israeli occupation forces, who are destroying Palestinian homes and restricting even the most basic needs from Palestinian people in Gaza, as seen in the devastating and cruel massacres at Rashid Street and the Kuwaiti roundabout, where over 100 people in total were killed by the IOF after trying to get wheat flour from an aid truck that was let in. These devastating mass killings are a testament to how desperately a permanent ceasefire is needed now. By passing a resolution that clearly and explicitly calls for a permanent, immediate ceasefire in Palestine and amending the resolution to include refusing to send any military aid to Israel, you can and must make sure that no more innocent lives are needlessly lost. We demand a ceasefire now and free Palestine. Thank you.
Good evening, Council. My name is Luke Lee, a resident of Champaign-Urbana. I want to echo, a thank you, first of all, to particularly Representatives Wilkin and Evans, who, again, got this got this process started in the Council. We live in the United States, right? Just like Israel, a settler colonial country and government, we live in a country where, most people can't afford a $400, emergency expense. We live in a county, Champaign County, where 44% of households struggle financially, right? Alice's presentation doesn't just go away after a week, as you all know, right? 44% of households in the county and 60% in Urbana struggle financially. First of all, this is disproportionately Black people and Black households. We know in education, in housing, in healthcare, in wealth outcomes, so many people in this country and in our county and in our city, particularly people of color and particularly Black people and Indigenous people, are struggling. End all U.S. aid to Israel. Divert that money to create a just and equitable society for people here in your purview in Urbana. Ceasefire now and free Palestine.
Right. Hi, my name is Jasper Nord. I'm a student at UIUC and a citizen of Urbana-Champaign. I just want to say that I support the skate park initiative that was mentioned earlier, and I support the original ceasefire amendment as it was drafted by a coalition of organizations in the community, which included an immediate call for a ceasefire and an end to military aid to Israel. I think, frankly, it's kind of insane the amount of money that we are pumping into a military organization that is currently killing children, unabashedly committing war crimes in the form of bombing hospitals, killing journalists, and citizens abroad. It's frankly a little bit shocking that this is still something that we need to discuss. I also want to vocalize that as a ethnically Jewish student and citizen, I am personally offended by the assertion that this call is anti-Semitic, and I feel like it erases a large portion of people who identify as Jewish within the community. The Zionist state has always been controversial among Jewish communities and scholars, and the assertion that this is anti-Semitic, frankly, I think it's baseless and wrong. So, yeah, I would just like to support, once again, the amendment of the current resolution, if that is what must pass, to include a current and immediate end to all military aid to Israel, which could be much better used and appropriated to support citizens at home in terms of healthcare, schooling, infrastructure, etc. And yeah, thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Vadim Zharnitsky, and I'm a member of the UIUC community. I support the lasting peace resolution that is under consideration now. I understand that many people are unhappy with this resolution and want the ceasefire resolution proposed earlier. I heard that 70 cities supported it and multiple Ivy League university organizations supported it. They are all wrong, in my opinion, and I will explain why. This is de facto a pro-Hamas resolution because then Hamas will stay in power, the hostages will stay in captivity, and sooner or later Hamas will strike again. With the ultimate goal of destroying Israel. It will turn to reality the phrase "from the river to sea, Palestine will be free," which has been repeated last time, and I'm happy that nobody is repeating it today. What is wrong with this phrase? On the surface it looks nice, but so many other slogans were. "Work makes you free" was written on concentration camps' entrances. Earlier, "Save Russia, beat Jews," that was more honest, was yelled during pogroms. From the river to the sea also sounds nice, but the Hamas interpretation is that the region of Palestine is to be free of Jews. A softer interpretation for the West is that there will be no Jewish state and all people live free in a democracy. But this is not what would happen. If there is no Jewish state and there is a so-called democratic state, Hamas will take over the whole region as it did in Gaza and would do so in the West Bank if the elections were held today. Not so poetic, but a more meaningful phrase that I support would be, let Palestinian state be Hamas and terror-free next to Israel and at peace with Israel. About the military aid to Israel, I continue to insist that one can support military aid to Israel and also support the two-state solution. In fact, the faster the IDF eradicates Hamas, the closer we are to the creation of a true Palestinian state. Let me put it in a broader context, if we are in the foreign policy issues. USA's democratic allies are under attack. Russia, with support of Iran, attacks Ukraine with an existential threat for the latter. Iran's proxies attack Israel, and Hamas has support from Putin's Russia. Taiwan might be invaded next. We, United States of America, should support democracies across the globe who face existential threat. I'm going to finish with three phrases that are dear to me, and I'm sorry if I annoy some majority. Slava Ukraini, which means glory to Ukraine. Am Israel High, this is really annoying, people of Israel live. And the last one, but not least, God bless America.
Chris Selling. Vote yes on the skaters. Help them build an awesome space here in Urbana. Council, we need to remember today that in 23 leading up to October 7th, it was the deadliest year on record for children in the West Bank, a political archipelago almost entirely controlled by the IOF. There was no peace to break, remember the Flower Massacre. We need to remember that Israel is currently holding over 9,000 hostages. These are mostly children. We've all heard how the International Court of Justice described the treatment of these hostages, these children. They've been found with burns and bruises across their body. They were kept without access to food, water, toilets, or shelter, seized in an apartheid police state, with many refused access to trial. Call for a permanent ceasefire that demands the full release of all these child prisoners. What does the word peace really mean? We need to ask ourselves why members of this community find the word ceasefire so disgusting. Peace means to be free of occupation, persecution, and injustice. Sending our money to fund a quieter oppression and genocide free of critique is not peace. Council, I beg you not to partake in degrading the word peace. No military aid to Israel. The Zionist state is a deeply racist apartheid regime that values white Jews above non-white Jews, that outlaws interracial marriage and persecutes non-white Jewish communities up to and including giving groups like the Ethiopian Jewish women contraceptives without informed consent for years. Let us stand proud and not fund or support apartheid regimes. No military aid and no funding for apartheid. When we build a world where in 7 weeks we can watch 7,000 children get erased from the face of the earth, we are creating a community that tolerates so many other children's lives being worthless. The future we potentially build here today, making a mockery of the words peace and diversity and consensus and democracy, is one that does not value the lives of certain children. I call on council to have the courage to be on the right side of history, supporting the people that put them in office. Washing one's hands of the conflict between the power and the powerless means to side with the powerful, not to be neutral. Paulo Freire.
Hi, I'm Mick Wolf, Urbana resident, and I encourage you to vote yes on this resolution calling for the end of the Gaza war and a lasting peace. As imperfect a process as this has all been, witnessing all the pain, trauma, fears, and concerns expressed from members of our local community all the way around over the last 2.5 months due to the ravages of war and the destruction between Israel and Hamas, my hope is that this will come in for a landing tonight. While more debate brings more debate, and I'd like to see this get passed as is, I know that there will undoubtedly be more language to debate tonight, and with the pull to add, to modify, to satisfy with more. Whether legitimate, fair, understandable, or not, will of course be up to you all, and if you do decide to debate and amend, I hope that it will still follow a path of peace, to a peace fire.
Hello, my name is David. I'm an activist and a student here in Champaign-Urbana. Tonight I'm asking the City Council to do the bare minimum. We're not asking you to move mountains. We're not asking you to cure cancer. We're asking for you to include the language which depicts the reality of the people of Gaza and of Palestine. More importantly, we're asking you to adopt language which reflects the reality of what this is. When one side has an army funded by our tax dollars, when one side is killing children, more children since October than all of the wars in the past 4 years previous combined. This is not a war, this is a genocide. My great-grandparents lived in Nazi Germany. They were supportive of the regime. And over many awkward family dinners, I've had to sit in a situation where there has been both sides' language about the atrocities committed there. Let's learn from history, and let's make this resolution have the language it deserves for the people of Gaza. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Dua Ad-Dasuqi. This morning, I woke up full of rage. I was furious as I was reading the news. Al-Shifa Hospital, which is the biggest hospital in Gaza, is being attacked for the 4th time. And people are fleeing. 30,000 people took shelter in that complex, and they have been given evacuation orders again and again and again. The people that I have heard from in Gaza mentioned that they have had to relocate 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, some of them 10 times in the past 5.5 months, 164 days, due to these evacuation orders that are just having Gazans going around in circles. Rafah, which was supposed to be that last resting place, that place where they can, even though it's a tent, call it home for the moment. Now there's talk of evacuating them from there because the IOF wants to go in and take care of whatever they take care of. And as I sat down to kind of write what I wanted to talk about here today, I couldn't. I was in and out of rage and tears for about 4 hours this morning. I had conversations with each and every one of you in my mind, and they were not very nice. I had conversations with Nikki Budzinski, who I'm meeting with on Friday, and it was not very nice either. And, you know, a lot of times people are like, why are you guys here? This is a waste of time. Well, I just want you to know that this is very important, but it's not the only work we're doing here. There has been a movement across the community here that has been building change that will be coming for the Champaign-Urbana area for years to come. We have a strong inter-community movement that's happening here, which from my understanding is one of the goals of, you know, having resolutions, one of the goals of being here at City Council. And you know, the other work we're doing, like the uncommitted vote here, you know, leave it blank, don't break rank, leave it blank when you vote tomorrow in the primaries. Basically sending another message to the Biden administration that we are not going to vote for you if you support genocide. Same thing for Nikki Budzinski, not voting for her if she's supporting genocide. So basically, this is one part of our action, and it's an important part because this is as local as it gets. This is as close as we can get to our government officials. These are the people that, if we wanted to, we could talk to every single week, probably pick up the phone, not that I've tried, and speak to each one of you directly. So we start here because this is very important, but that doesn't mean that it's the end of our work. Our work is continuing because we demand a ceasefire, we demand Palestinian liberation, we demand freedom for everybody, and we understand that our struggles are all interconnected. Thank you.
Good evening, council members. My name is Bara. It's very nice to see you all again. I'm also here to advocate that, and thank you, I guess, first off, for writing this or supporting this peace resolution. However, it's still not enough. There is still change that could be done, and there are improvements that could be done to it. Mainly the two being, first is including the language of a permanent and immediate ceasefire, as well as the second being to clearly stating to stop U.S. military aid to Israel. And the reason is because that specific thing is not sending humanitarian aid to Israel. It's literally sending bullets and bombs that are being used. And right now in Gaza, when they send tents or other humanitarians, even the rods in the tent aren't even allowed in. It's up to that much. The World Health Organization said that some of its packages were turned back because it had safety scissors. Not like big scissors that are shears. No, tiny safety scissors, the one that you get your kids when they're going to elementary school. And we're also seeing now Al Shifa Hospital being besieged for the fourth time, which the United Nations said after the World Health Organization did a survey there. There was no conclusive evidence that any Hamas was there, but what they did find was they called it a death zone. A place that was just catastrophic and just unimaginable, with death at every single corner, and they witnessed people dying as they were there just conducting their surveying. And what we're seeing now as they're attacking it again is actually just revenge, because one of the officers who led that first mission into Al-Shifa was killed recently. I urge you to think about the consequences of our actions, and I urge you to please consider the amendments for the resolution that were previously discussed. Thank you for your time.
Hello, my name is Gwyneth Crepsio. I am an Urbana resident. I live 2 blocks from here. I know many people in the room. I've said hi to many people that I went to middle school with, that I went to high school with. And I'm also a Jewish resident of this town. I had my bat mitzvah at Sinai Temple. I see the Jews in the room. I see you, Josh, in the corner. I see you, Irene. I see Mick. I see all of you. And I am here to say that that Israel makes me feel deeply unsafe as a Jew, that my fellow Jews in the room, it breaks my heart to see the trauma of our people turned against us and turned against the people that we are meant to be in community with, that we are meant to to love and be. I'm sorry, I'm nervous because I'm not supposed to be here. I'm not supposed to be talking to you. I'm supposed to be at home having dinner with my family. And it breaks my heart that I have to come straight from work and go home and write down on a note card a few things to say that apparently no one else is saying. I mean, many people are saying in the room, but there's so many things that seem so obvious to me that aren't being heard in this room, I guess, because we're still here. The state of Israel makes me feel deeply unsafe as a Jew. The Zionist movement is a political movement. The Zionist movement is more deeply supported by Christians that wish for the apocalypse than by any Jew. And it is not the Jewish values that I know from this community, is not the Jewish values that I know from communities across the country that I have been a part of. And I urge you to pass the bare minimum of a ceasefire resolution, not because it's going to fix the world, but because there are neighbors here that need you to show that you care about them. We're passing a bare minimum ceasefire resolution that should have more strong language, because we need to reject the Israeli war machine and their alliance with Trump, because this isn't just about the Palestinian neighbors and the Jewish and Israeli neighbors. These are people that are that are teaching our militia how to control us. And with the upcoming election, I am deeply scared that the tactics learned in Israel that is brought to this country, all of the terrifying things that we see on the news, are things that we will see here in our community. Because it's so easy to dismiss when you think it's not about you, but it is about us. We keep us safe. Thank you for listening, and please do the bare minimum.
Hello, my name is Grace McCourt, and I'm a member of the Champaign-Urbana community, and I'm here to ask the members of City Council to amend the Gaza resolution to include language on using the actual word ceasefire and to call for an end to military aid to Israel. And I'm here today asking you that because you are all more powerful than me when you ask for these things. I'm one person. I'm one voice. Every single person in this room is one person. Each one of you is thousands. When U.S. senators, congresspeople, state senators, congresspeople in Illinois hear me say that I want a ceasefire, that we're calling for a ceasefire, I'm one person out of millions. When for each of you, though, you represent thousands of constituents. And if you look around this room, your constituents are here. We're asking for a ceasefire. We are asking for an end to military aid to Israel. So I ask you today to listen to your constituents, to listen to your community, and to listen to your conscience. Every Palestinian life is so incredibly valuable, but I want to highlight the lives of Palestinian children. Recently, the deaths of Palestinian children in the past 5 months have surpassed all deaths in all conflicts worldwide from 2019 to 2022. 4 years total, children dying in worldwide conflicts, which is devastating. More have died at the hands of the Israeli government in the past 5 months using U.S. bombs and U.S. weapons. So I'm asking you today to, yes, pass an amendment calling for peace, but peace isn't enough. Call for a ceasefire, an end to the bombing, and to call for an end to U.S. military aid to Israel. Thank you.
Council, my name is Romy Shen, and I live in Urbana. Council, people's hard-earned money should not be going to fund the ongoing genocide of Palestinians. The working people of Urbana and the United States as a whole are struggling financially since we are in a cost of living crisis. Wages have stagnated while rent prices go up and the cost of groceries per week is astronomical. Still, though, our taxes go to the U.S. military, and this past November, the U.S. military sent more than $14 billion to Israel for, among other things, bolstering Israel's air and missile defense system and supporting its procurement of weapons such as missiles, funding Israel's military, and more. Now, these weapons are used to destroy Palestinian land and murder Palestinian people. In short, our tax dollars go toward funding war crimes against Palestinians. Now, this public comment mentioned that around 60% of Urbana households struggle financially. We also see the horrible images coming out of Palestine of families being murdered, children being starved to death, and people climbing out of the rubble of buildings destroyed by the Israeli Defense Forces. When so many of us in this city are struggling to make ends meet, why would we ever want our money to go to funding massacres abroad? The point of saying this, Council, is that your constituents today demand that we stop funding the U.S. military's complicity in Palestinian genocide. We demand a permanent ceasefire and freedom and liberation for the Palestinian people. Free Palestine, free Palestine.
I'm Allie. I am an Urbana resident and UIUC student who knows this local government. I've interned with State Representative Carol Amons and run community panels in the past. She has supported a ceasefire revolution, and I believe you should join her. I'm also a member of Amnesty International UIUC. In February of 2022, Amnesty International released a 280-page report entitled Israel's Apartheid Against Palestinians, Cruel System of Domination and Crime Against Humanity. 2 years ago, Amnesty International, an apolitical, not at all radical, nonpartisan human rights org, cited, among other reasons, fragmentation of Israelis and Palestinians, massive seizures of land, unlawful killings, infliction of serious injuries, forcible transfers, arbitrary restrictions on freedom of movement, and denial of nationality, and more as evidence of undeniably apartheid, and demanded Israel dismantle the system and called the international community to ensure this occurred. As Urbana, we are, no matter how small, part of that international community. We are years late, and every week that goes by without a permanent and complete ceasefire is more killings, more starvation, more suffering. I also say this to you with my father and his entire family, most of my family being Jewish for as long as records show. Records cut off at points due to genocide and ethnic cleansing, and yet I do not in any way, shape, or form support the state of Israel. Zionism is not Judaism. Judaism has been around for centuries upon centuries, and Zionism was founded by one man in a 1986 pamphlet barely over 100 years ago. 1886, so sorry. I argue that the least anti-Semitic thing one can do is oppose genocide. Do not use us, do not use me as a reason to not pass a permanent and complete ceasefire resolution. Do not use us as a reason to pass the resolution without the language of ceasefire, without demanding an end to United States aid for Israel. Never forget, never again is for everyone. It is happening again, and without a resolution demanding a complete and permanent ceasefire in Palestine, which demands the end to U.S. aid to Israel, Urbana, Illinois will remain complicit in genocide.
Hi, my name is Sana Sabuwala. I'm a resident of Urbana. I can reiterate again, as you've heard, the reasons why the City Council has a responsibility to stand up to the federal government, and why this issue isn't about terrorism, it's about ethnic cleansing. I could reiterate again why I don't want my tax money funding genocide, or why I think this peace proposal is not a representation of what we've been asking for the last 8 weeks. But we've discussed all of that. I've reached out to many of you individually. We've discussed all of this. I'm frustrated, as I hope that you are, at having to compromise in the face of this just horrific atrocity. What we are seeing, what we are supporting by supporting Israel, is far beyond illegal. It's immoral. I wake up every morning shocked that this is the real world that we're living in. It's not a world that I want to live in. The attack on Al Shifa Hospital yesterday was like horrifying. They kidnapped journalists, including a whole team from Al Jazeera. If you're hearing about this for the first time at this public comment, I encourage you to look into this. I don't have the words to explain this kind of horror, especially in this forum. Even without all the historical context that we've been bringing to you for these last 8 weeks, even without knowing that our tax money has funded a cruel occupation for over 70 years, just knowing what happened yesterday is terrible enough. The reports coming out of Gaza, the starvation, the humiliation, the desecration of graves and bodies, and the violence, it should be enough to encourage you to use all of the power that you have to push for a permanent end to this. And that includes demanding our government ends funding for Israel. As a graduate employee and a member of GEO, I'm technically employed by the state, and I grapple with this fact every day. I, like you, are going to go down in history as someone who is employed by the American government during its ongoing genocide and support of genocide in Gaza. That fact makes me deeply uncomfortable, and I hope that it makes you uncomfortable in the face of this ongoing atrocity. And because of that, I hope that if you won't pass the resolution proposed on January 8th that has mainstream support, you won't even put it up for a vote, the very least you can do is pass a ceasefire resolution that calls for the end of military aid to Israel. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Benjamin Theobald. I've been a resident of Urbana now for almost 8 years. I am here calling to the City Council, urging you that you include an amendment that says cease fire. It is ridiculous that that this current resolution that's being decided on, does not include the term ceasefire. Over at least 66% of Americans support a ceasefire resolution. Over 80% of Democrats support a ceasefire. Tomorrow is a primary, and which is the way Americans or supposedly we have our ways to make our voices heard. So I would say why this is so important and why so many people have been coming here week after week, taking time out of their personal lives, coming here because we care about what is happening, because what happens in Gaza, what happens in Israel affects everyone. As we saw what happened to Wadia Al-Farim in Plainfield, Illinois, when he was stabbed 26 times, he was murdered by his landlord because of the hateful rhetoric that's been coming out of this conflict. And yes, that also happens to Jews, as I mentioned before, in what happened in 2018 during the March of Peace, when the conflict was happening then, in the Tree of Life shooting in Pittsburgh. I'm going to tell you a true story. As I said, my name is Benjamin, which has meaning both in Hebrew and Arabic. I was named after a good Jewish friend of my family's. I'm sorry to say that the good friend of the mother has since passed away. Her name was Stephanie. She was in Israel in 1967. That was during the 1967 war. There were no doctors, no obstetricians in that hospital. But there was one nurse. And because of that nurse, because she was there, she was able to save my family's friend's life, and her son, Benjamin, who I have the graceful, gratefulness of being named after, survived. So because of the bravery and courage of that nurse, is why I'm staying here with the name Benjamin, because of the bravery, of the care for life, and goodness, is why we are here and saying no more violence, no more deaths in Palestine and Gaza. Thank you very much.
My name is George, and I'm an organizer with the Party for Socialism and Liberation. I'm here again to demand that the Council pass a ceasefire resolution that calls for an end to all U.S. military aid for Israel. Israel would not be able to carry out this genocide without the backing of Joe Biden. This isn't about Iran, Russia, or China, or whatever fear-mongering racist straws our opponents are grasping at. It's about the indiscriminate massacre of Palestinians being carried out right now with our tax dollars. You've seen the growing public pressure. Week after week, more and more and more folks have come out for a ceasefire than for any other issue in local history. The only way to make us go away is to listen to us, your constituents, and pass a strong ceasefire resolution that calls for an end to all U.S. military aid for Israel's ongoing genocide. Next week, Barry Dunn will present the findings of their public safety review and call on Urbana to hire more cops. I'm sure you don't want to have all of us here to see the contrast between how willing the council is to hire more cops and how unwilling you all have been to call for an end to U.S. military aid for Israel. We've all seen over the past few months that it's not the cops who keep us safe. The cops in Champaign let violent Zionists attack our march and give one of our medics a concussion. And those of us who were here last week saw firsthand how the cops stood by when a car drove into a crowd of pro-Palestinian folks gathered right outside on the front steps of City Hall. The car doubled back and continued to harass the crowd right in front of the cops. But despite this movement is growing. And with each passing day, more and more and more people come to view you all as illegitimate. Tonight is your last chance to restore trust with the people. Pass a strong resolution calling for an end to all U.S. military aid for Israel and for a ceasefire. That money needs to be spent here. Prove to us that you care more about building skate parks, ending poverty, and dealing with our skyrocketing rents than you do about appeasing the tiny fraction of this community that is cheering on a horrific genocide. Pass an amendment calling for an end to all U.S. military aid for Israel. Free Palestine.
Hi, my name's Addison Gray. The last time I stood before you, I told you that I was a temporary member of resident of Champaign, and I wasn't lying. Literally just today, I signed a lease on an apartment in Ward 5. And so I hope that by the time I move in, you all have voted on, and specifically my future representative, that would be Councilperson Bishop, will have voted to pass the resolution on the agenda for tonight calling for the end of the Gaza war and a lasting peace, but not in its current form. And I would like to reiterate that my vote in any and all future elections will be based on this. The last time we were here, you all flat out refused to listen to your constituents, asking you to include the phrase immediate permanent ceasefire within this resolution. And while I understand that this is something that at the very least council members Evans and Wilkin cannot re-propose, I want to start out by voicing that I am incredibly disappointed in the rest of you for not doing so. While I'm up here, though, I do want to take the time to suggest a few more things that I would like to see added to the resolution. Firstly, a call for the end of U.S. military aid to Israel. According to the U.S. Campaign for Palestinian Rights' U.S. military funding for Israel map, Urbana residents send $586,186 in tax dollars every single year in aid to Israel. This is money that could instead be spent to provide 69 households with public housing for a year, or more than double the CDBG HUD funding the city of Urbana receives, or increase the home funding by about 75%. It could be used to give free or low-cost health care to 203 children for a year. It could be used to hire 6 elementary school teachers. It could cancel 15 people's student loan debt, or fix at least one pothole in Urbana's I would also like to see much stronger language regarding the return of Palestinian hostages, almost 10,000 of whom, including children, are currently held without trial in Israeli military prisons. And finally, any call for the delivery of humanitarian aid must specifically state that Israel must allow for the delivery of this aid by land through the Rafah border crossing, which they are currently blocking, actively starving 2 million civilians trapped in Gaza right now. And in my last 30 seconds, I just want to recognize the fact that this last Saturday was the anniversary of the death of Rachel Corrie, who was murdered by a Caterpillar bulldozer in Israel, well, in Palestine. Caterpillar has an office here. This is a local issue. So, thank you.
Excuse me, before you begin, I just wanted to remind folks that we're about halfway through public comment. So in order to give everyone a chance to speak, if you want to shorten your comments or if you're with a group and have a spokesperson to speak for a number of you, that would help.
My name is Skylar Reefsteck. I am a born and raised CU local, and I'm here again, like with many others here, to express my strong support for an explicit ceasefire resolution, not a resolution that can be just as easily interpreted as a call to continue to arm Israel as it can be interpreted as a call to end military aid. It makes me immensely proud to see so many people in our community sharing this sentiment. While detractors will say this isn't city business or that this will do nothing for Palestinians, they are wrong on both counts. Our tax money is being used to arm Israel's brutal and relentless assault on Gaza. And we have an obligation to oppose this, along with all other instances where our tax money is spent on death and destruction. This resolution will elevate our voices to a level simply out of reach without city support. This is a basic function of city councils. Palestinians, along with their friends and family, live here in CU, and they have been sharing exactly how the violence has affected them and what this resolution will do with them. Listen to them. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Avior. I'm in UIUC. I wanted to say that there is a saying by Goebbels, the propaganda minister of the Nazis, that says if you tell a lie big enough and frequently enough, people will believe it. And I guess this message struck deep in the hearts of those people in the crowd today. They chant and they echo the same word, genocide, time after time, but they lie. They lie bluntly and going big. I want to quote from the saying of John Spencer. John Spencer is the urban warfare studies professional and expert in West Point, the US military academia. He said that describes Israel's achievement as unprecedented, especially given the complex combat conditions above and below ground. Mr. Spencer says that Israel is setting the gold standard for avoiding civilian casualties. Israel doesn't need prompting to provide humanitarian aid or to act with caution. According to another retired British colonel, Richard Kemp, the average combatant to civilian death ratio in the Gaza is about 1 to 1 to 5. And this is astonishing since according to the United Nations, the average of combatant to civilian death in the world is 1 to 9. Now, according to those people here, none of the people who died in Gaza are combatants. All of them are civilians, and which is weird because even the Hamas themselves says that few thousand of them are dead. And also the military intelligence of the US said that about 10,000 combatants are dead in the Gaza Strip. Now, with this being said, that there is no genocide, I want to say two other things that I want to emphasize. One is that the people here claim that Israel used the aid to kill, just to kill, but with the same breath saying that the US should stop the aiding for defense systems. And I don't know how a defense system against missiles can kill other people, but yes, they want to stop this defense and letting the Hamas fire more rockets and kill more people in Israel. Second is the issue of the tax dollars. They say they don't want the tax dollars to go for killing and for terrorism and genocide or whatever, but they have a problem with Jewish people protecting themselves in Israel. They don't have a problem with UNRWA that was approved to aid and facilitate in the massacre of October 7th, and they don't have a problem with money coming from the US to the Palestinian Authority, which pays salaries for terrorists for killing civilians, among them Americans. Thank you.
My name is Abdurrahman. I'm a student at the University of Illinois. Today, I'm here to tell you that you need to support an explicit ceasefire resolution. That was all I was going to cover today, but since we had this joke of a speech, I'm going to refute every single one of the points he's just made. Let's trust West Point and the U.S. government that lied about the Iraq War. That's great. I'm definitely going to trust West Point. As well as, setting the gold standard in terms of civilian to military casualties. 93% civilian casualty rate is really, really the most moral army in the world. He today called us all liars. This is really, really funny because it's the exact tactic that the Zionist government uses. Everyone else in the world is lying, but them. Right? On to UNRWA. If I were to come to you and to say, you right there, you're a terrorist, and I did not give any evidence whatsoever, is that called like solid, hard proof evidence? Because that's what Israel claims to be as evidence when claiming that UNRWA is, aided the October 7th attack.
Please let the speaker speak. Let the speaker speak.
Furthermore, as you can see by his inability to let me finish, this man is a very violent man. Him and his wife have come to many of our own protests. He brought his daughter with him to this protest. His wife assaulted a 17-year-old minor. She swatted her phone out of her hand. So if you want to listen to this man who should be charged, in criminal court, please be my guest. What other points did he make?
Address your comments to the council, please.
So, in conclusion, the defense systems, right? So if I were to break into your house, right, and I was to trap you into your bathroom, and then one of my friends was to aid me financially and militarily by buying me a gun so I could shoot you in the head whenever you try to take your house back, I don't know how much of that is defense. I would call that offense. In conclusion, if you do not support this explicit ceasefire resolution, you all in this room might as well take a gun to my head and shoot me in the face. Because you don't see me as human. And you're going to believe these lies over the many people that have come here today speaking the truth. Thank you.
Please allow the next speaker to speak.
Hello, my name is Hibab Udaya. I'm a resident of Champaign-Urbana. Today I am fasting. I get to break my fast with a lovely date, food, family around me. But the people in Gaza are fasting unintentionally without anything to break their fast. After 14 hours of fasting, a family in Gaza had to break their fast to lemon and cooked grass. Did you hear me? Grass. I bet all of you enjoyed a lovely dinner today. What? Steak, chicken, whatever. They enjoyed grass. A mother went to bring flour for her kids and found them under the rubble, dead when she returned. They're in need of food and water to survive. They go out trying to find some of that, not knowing if they're going to come back home alive or not. The children are literally starving to death. They're starving. Can you guess who's doing it? Joe Biden himself. He enabled the intentional starving in Gaza. American tax dollars are letting these children starve. You're telling me my tax dollars are going to kids that are starving. That's disgusting. It's disgusting. My money? You think I'm giving it to these children to die? No, I'm not. but please continue telling me how putting a Palestinian flag up, wearing a kufiya, saying Free Palestine all of a sudden is offensive. While not too long ago, I seen a child's body hanging from a damaged building after a heavy Israeli airstrike hit. There was several parts of her body blown off. She was only 12 years old. Is it hard to understand that a child was hung on a building? Imagine that with your own child. Her limbs are out of her body. Imagine that with all of your children. Isn't it crazy how we are all sitting here right now? We're so blessed to be here. We have parents, we have siblings, we have all these memories from the past to think about. But the children in Gaza don't get a childhood or memories to even look back at because the IDF are choosing to kill newborn babies before they even get to go to school. While we are all on social media watching a mother lay on her grave, she was yelling to the soldier. There was a grave with her son in it. They want to smash it to make what? An amusement park. An amusement park. With her child in the ground, they were going to smash the grave. We all watched it happen from a distance. Well, we can all swipe away at any time on social media.
Hi, my name is Samar, and I'm a resident of Champaign-Urbana. It is the holy month of Ramadan, and I'm breaking my fast every day with my family with a roof on top of my head, while the people of Gaza have nothing to eat, and they wait to look up in the sky, wondering if they're going to get dinner or death. The people in Gaza are unintentionally fasting every day because of the aid not entering Gaza. Israelis are protesting in front of the aid trucks, not allowing the aid to enter. Aid hasn't entered Gaza in days, causing kids to starve to death. A kid named Yazan Kafarna was a 10-year-old boy that lived in Gaza, and due to having no food or water for many, many days, he died from malnutrition. He died weighing only 11 pounds. As a 10-year-old child, that's nowhere near normal for a 10-year-old child to weigh 11 pounds. That's for a newborn should weigh 11 pounds. He died looking like a literal skeleton. And if there were kids in the U.S. starving to death, you guys would do your best to prevent that from happening. But I just don't understand. How are we different? Is it because we have darker hair or darker eyes? I was always taught as a kid, we're all human, right? I guess not. He was only one of the 23 that have died from malnutrition. After there being school shootings and kids dying, you guys try your best to prevent those things from happening and making sure the kids in school are always feeling safe. But you guys don't care about the innocent children dying every day. When the estimate of kids dying every year from school shootings is 14, well, there has been over 10,000 kids in Gaza in the last 5.5 months. Asking for a ceasefire is the least you guys can do. While watching the kids' limbs get bombed off. You guys just watch that. Don't even care. And watching the parents just hold their kids' limbs in their arms. Ceasefire now.
Hello, Council. I'm Rula, and I'm a resident here in Champaign-Urbana. I would like to announce a breaking news. Israel has finally become a fully developed democracy in the Middle East. Newsflash, what did it take? Oh, you know, only about the demolishment and erasure of Palestinian villages, the brutal killing of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians, the displacement of nearly 2 million Palestinian women, men, and children in Gaza, and currently what is taking place now, you know, the genocide of Gaza. Imagine if I actually sounded serious saying how small these atrocities actually sound. I would sound ridiculous, right? And in fact, I would be complicit in letting this genocide take place. Does this start to sound familiar? Well, it's exactly what you're doing, sitting as a council member, trying to pass a so-called resolution that doesn't explicitly mention the words a permanent and immediate ceasefire. And so you're telling me you are complicit in letting this genocide take place. Here at the university, before any meeting, event, or program that takes place, the university takes a couple minutes to honor the very native lands that we are on today. The lands that the Europeans took at the expense of what? The lives of 12 million Native Americans. And suddenly now in America, an apology is made in assurance that history should not repeat itself. However, again and again, these apologies aren't good enough. You should not just be sitting here to wait for another 30,000 Palestinians to die and then just apologize and say it was out of my hands. The least you can do is call for an immediate and permanent ceasefire. So I'm a Palestinian American, and every other summer I go to the West Bank, to the village in which both of my parents and generations of my family have been born and raised. Now the West Bank, as you may all know, is one of the few lands left as Palestinian territory, in addition to Gaza, as the majority of what's now considered Israel was stolen by Israel through the killing of Palestinians and the illegal settlements. Just this past Wednesday, in my own home village in the West Bank, my aunt's brother, Zaid Shukri Khalifa, was shot in the heart and killed at the age of 23. Alongside his friend Abdullah Asaf, who was only 16, and 3 others were injured by Israeli soldiers for simply being Palestinian. This is the West Bank, not in Gaza, and do you think not calling for a permanent and immediate ceasefire wouldn't have possibly prevented this from happening? Your complicity is literally allowing Israel to continuously and illegally commit these war crimes in the West Bank and Gaza. And you wonder how this could affect our community here in Champaign-Urbana? Well, in fact, here in America, the discrimination of Palestinians is widespread, as in fact, on October 14th, Wadi al-Fayoum was stabbed 26 times by his landlord in his own home, a 6-year-old child. Clearly, if there's a persistent amount of people here today, it is clearly affecting many of us. Ceasefire now.
Hello. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. But my name is Firdaus, and I'm a constituent of the Champaign County. And I was going to write a very elaborate speech on why last week's ceasefire resolution was BS, but I had no time for that. After fasting for 13 hours, I literally had no energy. But I've only been here 3 times, and I know that I've heard all there is to hear to pass a real resolution with the language that the international communities have been using, the language that Palestinians have been requesting us to use for the past 5 months, and the only language that will be accepted when passed as a resolution in this city council. But I'll give you a little snippet of what my elaborate speech was going to be about. You all know what the resolution that you guys passed reminded me of? It reminded me of New York Times headlines saying that Palestinian journalist Shireen Abu Akhla had died as if she had randomly went to sleep and not woken up the next morning when she was assassinated by the Israel occupation forces. News outlets purposely erasing ages of Palestinian children who have been imprisoned without due process, i.e. no trial, no being told why they're imprisoned, as if to all make it seem like they deserved it. That's what your resolution reminded me of. And so many other instances of blatant bias, and all I could think of is that they have one thing in common with that resolution that was passed 2 weeks ago. It all conveyed to us, your constituents, the strong bias that you guys have towards the colonial state of Israel. We need to use language that does not undermine the lived experiences of Palestinians, just like we do for other communities that have experienced genocide. When we talk about the Holocaust, we use the language that was used. We don't sugarcoat anything, so let's not try to do it with Palestinians. And then also we need to end the military aid to the occupation, as everyone has been saying, because have you looked at the US and the problems that we have in this country? You know how many things could be solved without money that you guys are sending to other countries that don't even really need it? So get it together, ceasefire now, a real permanent resolution that includes all the things that people have been asking for.
Hi, my name is Amy, and I'm an Urbana resident. I had to step out earlier to talk to my kiddo because she was throwing a fit because she couldn't come tonight. I assured her she did not want to come. It required more sitting still and being quiet than she had in her. She's now tucked comfortably in her bed in Ward 5. And she wants a ceasefire, so let her wishes be known as well. It is about the kids for me. The fact that a child dies every 15 minutes, the fact that I watched children picking grass today as someone mentioned earlier, to break their fast tonight. And just how are we looking at the children in our lives and not feeling this urgent call to demand a ceasefire? It is beyond me. I tried to explain the genocide in Palestine to my 7-year-old, and she asked, but why would they do that, Mom? How do you answer that question? Because some people value land over human life. We need to stop funding this genocide. Urbana can lend our collective voice to more than 70 cities nationwide who've called for a ceasefire. We cannot say we promote peace while sending all these bombs to kill these children. Please amend this resolution to include no more military aid for Israel.
Hi, I'm a student here in Urbana, and I wasn't going to come up and say
Could you
anything
state
tonight.
your name for the record?
I'd rather not state my name, but I wasn't going to say anything tonight, so I'm going to keep this pretty brief in service of everyone getting to talk. But I just want to take the opportunity to address everyone here as not as a politician, because I know there's I hate politicians as much as the next guy, but I think this is an opportunity where we need to communicate on a different level, and I don't think this is something that can be talked about as a bipartisan issue. I think this is a question of whether or not you're actually willing to love other people the way you love your family members and your friends. And I think you've probably heard the word genocide and the number 30,000 a lot of times in the past couple meetings, but I don't think it really sinks in for a lot of people. And I want to echo one of the previous speakers who implored you to actually imagine that your family members are dying and that your tax money is being used to do it, and to realize how evil that is and how devastating it is. I mean, I think there's a lot of people here that have been, depressed over the past few months, been really emotionally affected, and I think that's a human impulse. I think this is something that everyone in the council here should be feeling, if you're not. And I think if you are feeling that, then you're going to know what the right resolution is, and you're going to know that ending military aid to Israel, adding that onto the resolution, is nothing short of like the smallest step you can take. So, yeah, that's all I'm going to say. I appreciate the time.
My name is Isabel Osorio. I am a resident of Champaign-Urbana, and I stand here and I'm compelled to speak before you because I am a descendant of the Irish and Taino Puerto Rican people who were killed. My family, we are the survivors, and it has broken my heart. And I hope that because all of our nervous systems are connected, something we cannot disregard, that you can feel and you can see me shaking and you can understand why we need a ceasefire now. And we need to end U.S. aid to the Israeli military immediately. I really, truly, as a human being, appeal to you to understand that without justice, there cannot be peace. Empty words mean nothing. You know how they feel. Please stop the killing. Please use your language. Acknowledge your power. Acknowledge the blood that you have rushing through your veins, the breath that you have. Notice where your feet are right now, that we are safe in this room. And there are so many people in this world who do not have that privilege. It is our responsibility. It is our responsibility to protect them. We protect us. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Dr. Matt Soyland. I'm a resident of Ward 2 in Urbana. I came here again to echo the mass of people behind, or in front of you, I guess, and behind me, who are calling for you to add language, calling for an explicit ceasefire in Palestine, and calling for an end to all U.S. aid to Israel, which I think that it is important to recognize that we're not asking for much, right? These are words that we're asking for, words that we have come week after week after week to ask you to add to this. And the response to this has been to shoot down a community written resolution and instead have one ghost written by a group of folks who would have a more quote unquote agreeable position. So I don't think that this many people, I mean, some of whom have left at this point, would show up week after week after week if we weren't passionate about something. I do also think that it's important to recognize that this is time that maybe not you, but somebody in your position has carved out for us to air our grievances and address you directly, and to meet the sort of response from the community that you've received with indifference and irritation is extremely disrespectful and disgusting when it comes to the topic that we're addressing, and that does not apply to all of you. But I think that is all I have to say on the matter, other than Free Palestine, ceasefire now.
Hi, my name is Ahmed. I'm a student at UIUC. And there's not really much more I can say than what everybody else here has already said. But I just want to state one simple fact. This country, and by extension all of you, are at war with the Palestinian people. Notice how I did not say Hamas, I said the Palestinian people. Hamas has only existed since the 90s. And the Palestinian people have existed for thousands of years. Okay? And this country has supported Israel in their genocide and ethnic cleansing of the Palestinians for the past 75 years. Our money, $300 billion some dollars, have gone to this. And you guys are all representatives of people of Champaign. You're not representatives of the people of Israel. Why don't you guys do what's best for your community? Why don't our tax dollars go to this community? Why does this country prioritize the people of a different country rather in their goal of ethnic cleansing of the indigenous population? And rather, why don't the tax dollars of this country, of this district, go to the actual people here? Why are we continually sending money to go kill little kids, and why can we not help our kids here? It's honestly such a shock that I have to be here, that any of us have to be here to speak common sense. This is not something that's completely like, this is not a two-sided thing. This is one-sided completely. Israel has all the weapons, all the power. Palestinians, since their inception, have not had any strong backings. Israel, since their inception, has had the backing of Britain, and then by extension, America. Major world powers constantly supporting this. And it's not because they care about Jews. It's not because they care about any sort of humanity. It's purposely monetary and strategic. So I'm hoping that you guys can just put humanity first for once, and you can put your own people first for once, instead of the people 3,000 miles away. And you can also put justice first for once. Free Palestine.
My name is Mars Gramley, and I am here in support of the Palestinians and in support of a ceasefire. I will keep this brief, but I ask you to really listen. Palestine has been besieged for more than 5 months, and factually, as I hope you know, for more than 70 years prior to those 5 months. I am a descendant of the Choctaw Nation, a people who have survived every attempted genocide and erasure on us, and I will not sit by and watch our painful history be repeated on another people. Which is why I am asking you to support this ceasefire resolution and pointedly calling on you to add the actual word ceasefire, call for a permanent and immediate one, and add to stop military aid to Israel. It would be useless of you to decide in 400 years that what Israel and the US has done to the Palestinians is wrong, as people have decided the genocide on the natives here was. 400 years is too long. I call on you to be on the right side of history now. We need you to pass an immediate ceasefire resolution, and we need it to be passed now. Thank you.
Good evening. The United States is still unfortunately deliberating on its response to the current mass death and destruction happening in Gaza, death and destruction that is so systematic, indiscriminate, and brutal that it is correctly qualified as genocide. I'm ashamed to be a part of this country when we are deliberately committing this crime by funding it, just another on a long list of crimes we have committed in other countries, killing thousands for geopolitical or capitalistic gain. March 10th was to be the decision on the Rafah invasion, which Netanyahu unfortunately approved. However, he has stated that this will take weeks to enact. We therefore still have some time to stop one of the bloodiest, most horrific massacres this generation will see in our lifetime, if something is not done. More than 1 million displaced people are sheltering in Rafah in flimsy tents, and the IDF is preparing to carry out a ground invasion without a realistic plan for civilian evacuation. Now is the time to insist upon a ceasefire, as well as condition and ideally discontinue military aid to Israel, as they either do not know how to take out enemy combatants without harming civilians, or they are intending to take out civilians, which seems to be the true strategy, as much as they try to flimsily mask this. Part of this mask is with the aim of hiding Islamophobia and racism, something that both of our countries are deeply infected with. Hopefully in the future there will be accountability and recognition of the true state of things, starting with the 1948 Nakba to the present day. However, we shouldn't only be asking for future admission of wrongdoing. We should be demanding for this horrifying tragedy to stop now, as we still have the ability.
Hello, my name is Hildegard Luiten, and I'm a CU community member. I want to address the doubts or the concerns about the point of passing a resolution at this level. For one, we're talking about a genocide, so why not try? Why not do something? Also, I'd like to just talk for a moment about how many eyes are on Champaign-Urbana. We already informed you at the last meeting that on March 2nd, we had a beautiful, peaceful protest with 700 of my neighbors and I. It was a wonderful movement of solidarity and showing out. One local resident heard our chants for ceasefire now, joined us in the streets, and posted the video to TikTok. That video got 500,000 views in 2 days. At this point, it stands at over 750,000 views, so 760-something thousand views. So eyes are on Champaign-Urbana. Know that. Again, 70 cities nationwide have passed similar resolutions. Please call for an amendment now to include ending all aid to military aid. It's not even aid, it's support of a genocide in Israel. Ceasefire now.
Is it my turn? Thanks. My name is Don Owen. I'm a historian. I'm an educator. I have degrees in psychology, history, and educational leadership. I don't know which one of those I should talk about first. It's very interesting to me to listen to people talk about Zionism, because Zionism is deeply rooted in American blood. It's called Manifest Destiny. And those of you who don't remember your 8th grade history, look that up. Manifest Destiny was used by American settler colonials to exterminate our native population. It wiped out millions of indigenous people. So is it any surprise that Zionism is being used in the exact same way, wiping out indigenous people in Palestine? This is a genocide. This is horrendous. And this should not have taken you 3 months. That is an abject failure in leadership. I was just struck last week as I was standing waiting in line to speak by the way it was almost like manifested, right? Back in January, the mayor launched into this amazing self-fulfilling prophecy, stating that if we brought this up, it would lead to divisiveness. But you know what? It's led to a lot more divisiveness because you sit there silently. And then when you decide to put something forward, it's weak, it does not contain the language of the original ceasefire, and it's 3 months too late. How many tens of thousands of people have died in those 3 months? 15 kids die every hour. That's 15 kids. That's unacceptable. That's truly unacceptable. You've received a few emails from me. You know what I think of this current resolution. You know that there needs to be language that calls for an immediate cessation of violence, an immediate return of hostages, including the 10,000 hostages that are being held by the Israeli occupation forces. I was struck hard in December when I was listening to BBC, and they said that dozens of women and children were released by the Israeli government as part of the hostage exchange. I'm like, wait, I thought they were prisoners. I thought they were enemy combatants. No, women and children were released. This is unacceptable. You also need to add language that calls for an immediate end to military support for Israel. Free Palestine.
Good evening, council members. My name is Carmela Lazar. In the past 20 years, we had multiple ceasefires in Gaza, some longer, some shorter, but the common thing for all of them is they all ended in another round of violence, escalating violence. A ceasefire is not a goal because at the end of the day, the state of war never ends. That is why I support a resolution for ending the war and a lasting peace. Choosing peace is hard. It requires acknowledging the self-determination of the other side, Jews and Palestinians, that will end in a two-state solution. Each side has many aspirations and dreams, and as part of such an acknowledgement, each side will have to sacrifice some of their dreams and wants. Sacrificing is a hard thing to do, but this is the brave thing to do, the right thing to do. Only by choosing peace, both Israelis and Palestinians will enjoy a life of safety, security, prosperity, and happiness. This is the only way to ensure children will have a path to a bright future. I'll end with a quote from the late Israeli Prime Minister Menachem Begin, which was said during the signing of the peace treaty between Israel and Egypt that is lasting already for 40 years, over 40 years. No more war, no more bloodshed, no more bereavement. Peace unto you. Shalom, salam, peace forever.
Hello. My name is Robert Silverman. I've lived in Champaign-Urbana most of my life. My mother was born in Urbana, and she's buried in Mount Hope Cemetery. I have a counseling practice in town, and I have something I'm just going to read here. Our current world is witnessing the most cynical display of human depravity since World War II. Tonight, a young man stood up and spoke of the Zionists, few and far between. In percentages, few and far between means 0.02% of the entire world's population, including Champaign-Urbana. It's true. Jews are few and far between. If it's a vote, the Jewish people would not exist. Despite the reality of this small percentage, the Jewish people are not considered a minority. The word Zionism began in the late 1700s. A group of Jewish leaders recognized the reality of this overwhelming hatred growing for 1,000 years. Israel exists because in 1948, after 100 years of unsuccessful attempts of partitioning the land of Israel into two countries, the first action of the newly created United Nations came up with Resolution 181. One land for the Jews living in Palestine, one for the Arabs living in Palestine. Famously, the Jewish leadership accepted Resolution 181. Also famously, the Arab League refused it. The countries of the Arab League refused it. Israel has been in a continual war with many of its surrounding countries since its first day. But this formula has, after 75 years, been changing. Many believe Saudi Arabia and Israel were on the verge of signing a peace treaty, adding to the number of Arab countries in successful peace treaties for decades. I've been reminded in the past few months that the First Amendment protects lives. Over months, the words genocide and murder have been used countless times. The people using those terms don't understand what the words genuinely mean, but lying is protected speech. Tonight, someone said about the last meeting, a person sped up to try to hurt someone. That is a lie. I was standing there. I watched the interview and spoke to the police officer afterwards. He said it did not happen. The officer and I agreed. Had that accusation happened, that person would have been arrested. That's how behavior and the rule of law works. Another lie is that Israel is holding over 9,000 hostages. Clearly, this lie is a smokescreen to the fact that over 100 hostages are underground at this very moment. Infants, women, and family members kidnapped on October 7th and held every second since. The reality in Gaza is indeed horrifying. The brutality of human behavior is at its worst. I have more to say, and I know the clock's about to ring, so thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Josh. I'm an Urbana resident in Ward 2. I do not understand the argument that ending military aid to Israel would allow us to end homelessness, supply free college tuition, or provide free health care. Estimates from Bloomberg show that it would cost $8.1 billion a year to end homelessness in California alone. So yes, the aid to Israel, $3.8 billion a year, could cover 40% of California's annual costs, but this is one state out of 50. A research article published in the journal Medicina estimates that free health care would cost, conservatively, $32 trillion over 10 years, so $320 billion a year. Aid to Israel would cover 1% of that. An article published in The Hill found one estimate of the cost of free college would be $680 billion annually. So aid to Israel would cover 0.55% of that. The total federal expenditures for fiscal year 2023 was $6.13 trillion, of which aid to Israel is 0.06% of that. Military spending as a whole in fiscal year 2023 was $816.7 billion. I'm not sure if aid to Israel technically falls under that, but assuming it does, that's 0.46% of all the military spending. All I'm saying is that this idea that military aid to Israel is all that is stopping us from achieving a utopia is financially unfounded. Not to mention that we're ignoring the difference between how local, state, and federal taxes are allocated and earmarked. Aside from this, if we were to go down the road of amending the resolution again, why don't we explicitly, not vaguely, call out Hamas as a terrorist organization? Call for Hezbollah to honor UN Security Council Resolution 1701. Call for Hamas to unequivocally surrender so that this can end tomorrow. Clearly, there are too many diverse opinions to relitigate this. I believe that as a compromise resolution, it is not going to make everybody happy. That is what a compromise does. And I just wanted to thank Mr. Quisenberry's suggestion, or his amendment 2 weeks ago, because I do believe that calling for the immediate and permanent cessation of all violence between Israel and Hamas is far deeper than just a ceasefire. It goes just beyond this current war and all the past wars. I think that speaks to where things need to go in the future between the two peoples. So yeah, I hope you won't amend this. This has been going on for long enough. Please don't drag this out any further. Pass it as it is. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Kate, and I'm here yet again. I wanted to first say that I want to show my support for the skate park. We need more third spaces in our communities, and this is a great way to get that. Next, I had a lot of things I wanted to say, and they've left my mind, but I did want to say that no one is saying that by ending all military aid to Israel, we're going to solve everything. That's not how it works. What we're saying is we should not be sending money to kill children, to kill people. I don't understand your logic that the money isn't going to cover all of one single issue, so we shouldn't take it and spend it on that issue. If that was the logic, we would never improve anything. We need to take this money that we are spending to send weapons on average every 36 hours, by the way, to Israel. It is harming people and could be helping people in our communities, even if it couldn't solve everything and make us become a utopia. There's a lot I wanted to say. I wanted to also mention that there's been a lot of pink washing here in the past few meetings. As a queer person, I object to any kind of insinuation that the Palestinian community is homophobic, okay? There are gay, trans, lesbian, bi Palestinians that are living in Gaza right now, okay? There are LGBT people in every community, and in every community there is homophobia. You cannot escape it. It is part of our world. That is no excuse to bomb people. There are plenty of people in Palestine who are gay, who support gay people, just as there are in America. And just as there are in America, there are homophobic people. That is how it works. If we said that because there are some homophobic people in an area, we should bomb it, then we would be destroyed, okay? One more thing I wanted to say is that someone earlier talked about how America used the very same tactics that Israel is using now to wipe out indigenous populations. I think we all should be able to and all can agree that that was wrong. I would hope we can all agree on that. Now I want to ask you, what is the difference? Because Israel, less than 100 years ago, went into Palestinian land, stole it, killed people, displaced people, ethnic cleansing, genocide, and now we have this where they're again committing more genocide. What is the difference between our history and Israel's history? We don't want to repeat the same mistakes. Or do we? Do you? Finally, I wanted to say thank you to Grace and Chris. You have shown what true leadership is by standing up for what is right, even when it is not popular. Although I think we can all know by seeing our crowd that it is popular. You just will not listen to us. Again, elections are here. We remember everything that you've done. I don't know if you think you're going to get out of this without feeling some backlash, but it's too late. Like, you have stood here for 3 months and complained, and my time is out, but ceasefire now, free Palestine.
Hello, City Council members. I'm Maxwell Haynes. I'm an Urbana resident and a student at UIUC. I'm speaking here tonight to support the resolution being proposed with amendments to solidify our community's support to justice and liberation. The current resolution lacks the strength and conviction necessary in a time in which injustice is rampant. Men, women, and children continue to die daily, and if our little voices here can be added to the chorus asking for an end to this conflict, then we must do so strongly and firmly to protect the lives and end this genocide. Since the Nakba started in the 1940s, Israel has killed on average 800 Palestinian civilians every year by the lowest possible estimates. That is over 60,000 deaths, more than 30,000 of which have taken place since October 7th alone. That is 200 people per day, with countless thousands more likely dead and unaccounted for under the rubble. Adding to this, the ICJ has already found plausible evidence of genocide as a result of these indiscriminate bombing campaigns. As such, the First Amendment I am advocating for is language calling for an end to any and all military aid to Israel. Israel is currently holding as many as 10,000 non-combatants in prison without charge. This unlawful detention was one of the primary factors influencing Hamas's decision to attack Israel on October 7th. This inflammatory behavior only leads to more anger and more radicalization, strengthening the resolve and recruitment power of Hamas. If we want to end that, we must call for language calling for the release of all non-combatants who are being held without charge by the IDF. I also support the host of amendments that we have heard and proposed tonight condemning the war crimes and human rights violations perpetrated by the IDF. I believe that one day there will be a lasting peace and an end to the apartheid and the genocide that are occurring today. Everyone here knows the truth, whether they want to admit it or not, including the white supremacist colonialists currently advocating against a free Palestine. This has been nearly a century-long displacement and genocide, and in the last 163 days, we have seen more killing than nearly any other period in Gazan history, in Palestinian history. We as a community must come together and express our support for the freedom and safety of the Palestinian people. Too long have they been attacked and systematically bombarded by an oppressive regime, and too long the U.S. has stayed silent in the face of these atrocities. Please reflect upon all that has been expressed over the past few months and think about what side of history you all want to be on. Remember that there are no compromises between peace and oppression. What do you want your grandchildren to think when they see photos of you in textbooks with footnotes describing how you acted or failed to act? Step up, or step aside.
Hello, City Council members. My name is Imana, and I am currently a member of the Champaign-Urbana community. I'm here today asking you to address the language of the proposed resolution. The majority of media has chosen to collectively address this as a war, which I don't believe it is. It is, in fact, genocide and occupation. But if we are going to accept the designation of war, then our response as a community should reflect that and use the language of a ceasefire, which directly addresses the military violence taking place in Gaza right now. Rather than a cessation of violence, a phrase that overlooks the history and context of what is going on in Gaza right now, which we have all reiterated many times tonight, is ethnic cleansing, genocide, and apartheid. In our specific community, there are so many people, including myself, who have grown up constantly hearing about the occupation of and atrocities taking place in Palestine. This has been going on for decades, and without the attention of the entire world right now, it will keep going on until there is a complete eradication of the Palestinian people. To think it will stop short of that is naive. The language we should use should be direct, so as to ensure a clear path to an end to the genocide in Gaza and eventually the occupation of Palestine. CU is a diverse community. I am asking that you choose language that reflects the reality of the current situation in Gaza and also the members of the community that you represent. End military funding to Israel, call for an immediate permanent ceasefire, and end occupation in Gaza and West Bank, free Palestine.
Hello, my name is Lexi Vogel, and I am an Urbana resident of Ward 4, and this is my first time coming to City Council. I am here today because of the peace resolution, and I would like it to pass, though its language should absolutely include no military aid for Israel. They don't need it. And include the word ceasefire. That is what we have been asking for. That is what we will continue to ask for. But I also wanted to quickly send my support to the skateboarders. I know personally my little brother would love that space, and spaces like it are crucial for ending the loneliness and destructive involuntary celibate incel epidemics among our young men. It is crucial. That being said, I am a poet and a gardener, so I am concerned about the cultural and ecological ramifications of this genocide. I am sure you have heard about the olive trees that are uprooted. Since 1967, more than 800,000 Palestinian olive trees native to that land, unique to that land, have been illegally uprooted by the Israeli Authority. I am less concerned about our ability to get olive oil and more concerned about protecting biodiversity that cannot be replaced. Beyond plant life, thousands of animals have been displaced, not to mention the tens of thousands of people killed. When we lose stewards of the land, such as has happened in the U.S. with Native and Indigenous people, we lose so much. There will be ramifications for many hundreds of and thousands of years. Trees do not grow overnight. You cannot replace human life. There is no greater threat to Palestinian ecology than U.S. bombs. Precious knowledge on caring for the planet has been lost because of this genocide. This is generations and generations of damage, and trust and believe that the oxygen from those olive trees has made its way here to Urbana. Last year, myself and one other person grew over 400 pounds of food for our community. Every single person matters in the garden, and it makes a huge difference. The least we can do is call for the genocide to stop, add pressure just as we are doing, and save life, save the planet. Ceasefire now. Free Palestine. Do it now while we are asking nicely. Thank you.
Just a heads up, we have 10 minutes left in public input period.
Hello, my name is
Malik Juda, and I am a resident of Champaign-Urbana. We cannot turn a blind eye to the dire situation unfolding in Gaza, where innocent civilians are enduring unimaginable suffering and amidst humanitarian crisis of staggering proportions. The statistics paint a harrowing picture. 93% of Palestinians in Gaza are facing crisis levels of hunger. 85% of the population is displaced, and the perhaps most heart-wrenching of all, 70% of those killed are women and children. These are not just numbers. These represent real lives, real families, and real suffering. As a member of the compassion and empathetic community that hosted many leaders of justice, we cannot ignore the plight of our fellow human beings. The people of Gaza are enduring unimaginable hardship, and it is our moral obligation to stand in solidarity with them and advocate for their rights to the dignity and safety and access to basic necessities. Since October, Israel has dropped over 65,000 tons of explosives and missiles on Gaza, which is more powerful than 3 nuclear bombs dropped on Hiroshima, Japan. The humanitarian assistance reaching Gaza is woefully insignificant, leaving countless lives hanging in the balance despite no evidence of diversion or theft being presented to the United Nations or any other international governing body. Aid operations continue to be hampered, exempt in already dire situations. We must do everything in our power to ensure that life-saving and aid reaches those who need it the most. It is imperative we advocate for our ceasefire to facilitate the delivery of humanitarian aid through additional border crossings and streamline inspection processes and establish clear protocols to ensure the safety of humanitarian workers and situations. This is not only essential for delivering much needed aid, but also for allowing civilians to return to their homes and rebuild their lives. Free Palestine and ceasefire now.
Hello, my name is Jane McClintock. I'm a resident of Urbana. And very quickly, yes to the skate park. I think that would be great. And I wanted to talk about as I'd emailed you guys, I think that the resolution that has been put forward is much too subjective. It's not specific. And we really need directive policy to be spelled out. Otherwise, it's just not saying anything. So end aid to Israel. They don't need it, and they're not responsibly using it. They clearly have shown that they're not able to make good decisions. And also, ceasefire now. And I wanted to I'm trying to be brief because we got a lot of people, but I wanted to point out the study that came out by the Food Security Phase Classification, the IPC, which UN relies on to recognize when there's a famine coming. They said that 70% of people in northern Gaza are suffering from severe levels of food shortage, more than triple the 20% threshold that is a famine. And they also said that if we don't act now, that deaths are going to just like through the roof. It's going to exponentially increase unless there's a ceasefire now. The only way that we can get in enough aid to keep many more people from dying, like exponentially more people, the experts said, is we need a ceasefire now. And that's why you need to have clear policy in this resolution for it to be meaningful, because we need to make a clear statement about what we need. We need a ceasefire now, and we need to end aid to Israel. And thank you for your time. Thank you, Grace and Chris, for your leadership in the past, and thank you all for your leadership in the future. I appreciate you.
We have 5 minutes left.
I'll be quick. My name is Camille Cobb. I stand here, again, in support of a ceasefire in Gaza. I'm also in support of a skate park in Urbana. It's my first time standing in support of that. But I stand here in support of a permanent and immediate ceasefire. Standing up against a genocide should not be controversial. It should not have taken us multiple months to get you to listen to us about the urgency and importance of this issue. The resolution you're poised to vote on is a ceasefire resolution, whether you'll use the word or not. But I still have no clue specifically what was wrong with the original resolution. But if this is our starting point, then you should strengthen the resolution tonight before voting on it. It sounds like the language of calling for a lasting peace is important to some folks in our community. I think ceasefire captures that, but if that language is specifically important, then we also have to recognize the language of ceasefire is also important to many people in this community. You could amend it to say that we call for a ceasefire and a lasting peace, or a ceasefire that leads to a lasting peace. That's a compromise that I can get behind, and I think many folks would, I imagine, but I can't speak on their behalf. But more importantly, you need to amend it to call for an end to U.S. support, the U.S., that's us, to stop sending weapons, military aid, that is being used to kill people in Gaza to Israel. That's the role that our government has played, and so that's the part that we have any position to push back on, and we should push back on that, that sending of weapons and other types of aid that are used to kill people. And so once you've amended it appropriately, as you should, then you should vote to pass it tonight. It's an urgent situation. It needs to be passed. Free Palestine, ceasefire now.
And you will be the last speaker tonight. Public input will end after you. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Leanne, and I would like to request that I not be the last speaker tonight. I think that if you actually care about what the community thinks, then you should listen to all of us that are in line at the very least. I understand that you're running on a schedule, but frankly, there's not going to be any business as usual during a genocide, especially one that you have made yourselves complicit in by taking, as many members of this community have noted, 3 months to even put this toothless resolution on the table that doesn't go as far as it needs to. Nearly enough. Tonight we had someone get up here and engage in blatant genocide denial, and their comments have already been addressed in depth by another member of the community. But frankly, this shouldn't be happening. This shouldn't be happening, and I know that we're not supposed to be responding to other speakers, but fine, I'll address my comments to you. Shame on all of you for allowing this to go on long enough and emboldening people who are defending a genocide to come up here and advocate their beliefs in public. Shame on you for encouraging this rhetoric, for compromising with it, for platforming it in the last resolution you had, for coming up here, for creating an environment where someone can come and lie about a car trying to hit people. I was there. I saw it. We all saw it. Shame on you for creating this environment. All of you are complicit in genocide for failing to take proper action to bring about a ceasefire resolution and the end of U.S. aid to the Zionist entity. And frankly, as an actual Taiwanese person, our country was under martial law for 38 years with the backing of the U.S. government. So I know what I'm talking about when I say end U.S. aid. And you know what? If anyone wants to bring us up, keep our country out of your mouth. So yeah, to conclude, listen to your community, take meaningful action to end the genocide, and honestly, just think on who do you want to be? What kind of person do you want to be? Is this it? Do you want to be the person that talked about compromising with genociders? Because I don't, and that's why I'm here tonight. And I hope that my views reflect the members of my community who are saying, this is ridiculous. If you want this to be put to an end, then listen to your constituents and take action to call for an immediate and permanent ceasefire in Palestine.
Very much. That's the end of public input. Public input is over. We've had 2 hours. We need to discuss, if you're going to disrupt the meeting, you need to leave. No, we need to discuss this resolution along with the other items on the agenda.
Extend public comment.
You have been
I would like
here
to make a motion to extend public comment for another half hour.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, we're extended until... It would be...
Chair, may I ask that the actual audience refrain from any comments or clapping or what have you, so to allow as many people as possible to talk?
Yes. Go ahead. You have 3 minutes. Yeah.
Hello, my name is Bhavna Beam, and I'm a U of I graduate student worker. I've been coming to these council meetings for a few weeks now, but this is the first time I've got up to speak. I was going to try to keep my speech short, but now that I have some time, I'm, going to use it. So, honestly, it's shocking that with all that's been said, after so many of your constituents have come up to speak about their support for a free Palestine week after week for months now, many of you on the council could still be debating this issue. The answer is abundantly clear. Call for a ceasefire and the end of U.S. military aid to Israel. Truly, every week I sit in the crowd, look up to you all, and wonder, what could you possibly be debating in your head? You have listened to so many people come up here and request you peacefully to call for a ceasefire. And what goes through your head? Do our voices, opinions, concerns go through one ear and out the other? As elected officials, and I might add, a position that doesn't pay a lot, I know you took this job to represent your community. You took this job and you gracefully and honorably give your time to this job because you care. So then it really perplexes me why you're not listening to your constituents that you supposedly care to represent. It's quite obvious that the majority of this room is pro-Palestinian. I know you see us and I know you hear us, so why don't you represent us? But at the same time, when we come here week after week and tell you the drastically increasing death toll in Gaza, you don't acknowledge that either. All you show us with your silence is that you don't see Palestinians as people. I think it's also fair to say that you don't see us as people, as you purposefully ignore us, our presence, and our voices. We're not asking you to be foreign policy experts in genocide, or even experts in that region. All we're asking you is to listen and protect your constituents. So I guess my point is, which really it's a question, a rhetorical question I will clarify, why don't you see the humanity of Palestinians? And why don't you acknowledge that the majority of this room and in the hallway, a diverse coalition of people from all sorts of Urbana communities are all asking for the same thing: immediate and permanent ceasefire and end to U.S. military aid to Israel. Thank you, and free Palestine.
Hello, is this working? Hi, my name is Auburn Kelton. I'm a 3-year resident of Champaign-Urbana. First of all, I would like to thank Council Member Colasetti for calling for 30 minutes more of talking. Thank you. I would also like to say I support the skate park and the skaters. I'm friends with the gentleman that gave the presentation tonight, and I know them to be upstanding members of their community who are kind and generous with their time, and I know that they will do great things with the space if it is allotted to them. I would also like to say, as a founding member of a local organization, COVID Safe CU, I would like to thank those of you who are here masking and recognizing that we are still in a COVID-19 and SARS-CoV-2 pandemic and in a mass disabling event. That being said, I would like to mention that our liberation as Americans is intertwined with those as Palestinians, and so I would like to present some numbers. In 2020, at the beginning of the pandemic, Israelis commissioned a Gazan factory for 3 million cloth masks against COVID, but in 2021, Israeli government blocked Palestinians in Gaza from receiving COVID-19 vaccines. Now, in February, Gazan Palestinian journalists such as Hind Qadiri are on Twitter or X saying, everyone I know has the flu. Children as young as 12 years old are selling surgical masks on the street to survive. I listened to a podcast where a member of the Gazan community under siege right now is saying every day he scrambles on the street to find cloth to make face masks with to give out to his community to protect them. And none of those deaths from COVID-19 and other respiratory illnesses in occupied Palestine are going to count as deaths of this war. And meanwhile, our president is sending billions of our tax dollars in military aid, when at the same time here in town, in our country, approximately 2,000 American citizens have died of COVID every week this year. He's ending, our free testing programs, no masks, etc. And so that being said, our struggles are not so different, and I really would like to urge you to add a call for a ceasefire resolution and using that language and an end to military aid from America in your resolution. Yes, that's it. Thank you very much. All right.
My name is Frederick Hancock. I'm a resident of Urbana. I'm a graduate student at the University of Illinois and a member of the Graduate Employees Organization. So when I was a kid, I remember the first time I learned about apartheid South Africa, and I asked my parents about it, what it was, and they told me what it was. It was this place where it was a society where you had people that had lived there for centuries, and then you had these much newer people who, for whatever reason, ran the government and ran it in their favor in such a way that oppressed all of the people who had lived there for generations. That's a system which we all know today as apartheid, and I think we all don't like that system. So then I asked my parents what they did while that system existed. They were proud enough to tell me that they went to protests. They were in opposition to the system. They spoke out against it while it was going. Now, we turn to today. All of us, and I know I hope to have kids one day, and they're going to ask me, where was I during the 2023 to 2024 genocide in Gaza? It might seem strange it might seem a little bit controversial to say that to directly compare this to the apartheid system in South Africa, but every reputable human rights organization has made exactly that comparison. The current government of South Africa has made exactly that comparison. So I know what I am going to say when my kids ask me that question. I am going to say, I was here. I wore a kufiya. I went to protests with hundreds of other people, all of the amazing people here who are showing up day after day to try to stop this horrible genocide going on that our government is supporting. So what are you going to say to that question when your kids or your grandkids ask you where you were during the 2023 to 2024 genocide in Gaza? Are you going to say you were waffling and pushing back this obvious amendment that we should make to this resolution for months and both sidesing this issue? Or will you say that you were in support of what we should all support, which is explicit language calling for a ceasefire, explicit language calling for an end to U.S. military aid to Israel? Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Unique Maria Quillis. First, I'd like to stand in solidarity with my fellow brothers and sisters in struggle as a proud Puerto Rican and Black queer woman. I really wasn't even going to say anything today, but just listening to a lot of the people, it stirred me. Listening to the pro-Palestinians and the I guess that's what I would call it, anti-Palestinians, because if you're sitting here saying, you don't understand how calling for a ceasefire would assist in affairs that we have here in the U.S., then you must not understand that all of our struggles are truly connected. For example, Ryan Gaynor was murdered in Southern California, March 9th, by a police officer. A 15-year-old autistic boy was murdered, not killed. He was murdered because the police don't know how to handle those situations, because we're too busy funding wars. We're too busy sending money for weapons to kill children overseas. So it leaves our officers here to do things like that. We have a youth that is so uneducated that children like Next Benedict are getting murdered just for being themselves, just for living, just for existing and wanting to express themselves openly in what we call this free country. Lastly, I want to close out with saying, Mayor Diane Marlin, I'm ashamed and I'm astonished at your behavior. We stand here with our chests raising and decompressing our stresses because there's some of us as public speaking, things like that. You're over there huffing and puffing, turning your head to the side and sighing because we wanted an extra 30 minutes to speak. That's just astonishing to me. Body language is everything. You have so many eyes on you right now, and the way that you just threw caution to the wind is astonishing to me. You should be very ashamed of yourself. Free Palestine.
My name is Paul Weichsel. You've all heard me before. I'm probably the longest living resident of Urbana or Champaign-Urbana. I came here in 1960. I was also born in 1931. That being said, when a topic has been discussed over and over and over again, there's a natural tendency to withdraw from thought and find refuge behind slogans. And I think from time to time, it's important to step back and really examine the words that are being the substance of this discussion. And those words are ceasefire. Now, who in the world could possibly be opposed to a ceasefire if that represented an end to killing? Well, the difficulty with that is very simple. Suppose we want to know what the consequences of a ceasefire would be. And I would recommend a method to you that's very simple. Go to the people who started all of this and ask them what their plans are if a ceasefire were to come into existence. Now, it doesn't take much imagination to think of that or to do it, because the people involved have told us. Hamas initiated this conflict. And I'm not going to enter into the long discussion about the whole question of the history of Israel and so on. Let's put that aside for the time being. Hamas initiated this problem. And so we asked Hamas, what would you do with a ceasefire? And they're very straightforward and tell us, they already told us that. Number one, they have told us that they will look for an opportunity to redo what they did on the 7th of October. They will look for an opportunity to rearm, to restore their infrastructure, and prepare themselves for the next phase, which they have told us explicitly will be like this phase. Now, if you want to know what the ideological basis for that is, just take a look at their charter. Their charter is very clear. Number one, the charter aims to do anything possible to wipe the state of Israel off the map. They've said that explicitly. And they don't stop there. Their charter also states that any member of Hamas who encounters a Jew anywhere in the world is obliged to kill them if they have the opportunity to do so. I didn't write that. Hamas wrote that. To ask this council to align themselves to a process which will result not only in the destruction of the state of Israel, but put Jews anywhere in the world in physical danger. I hope the council will not do that. Thank you.
Hello. Hi, I'm Lily. I live in Urbana in Ward 5. I just have not much to say. There is no such thing as peace while we fund and aid genocide. Peace doesn't exist when people are being massacred. We demand a ceasefire and to end military and financial aid to Israel. I don't understand why we are debating over the lives of people, of women and children. I simply don't understand. Why is this debatable for you? This is not politics. This is just basic human life, the existence of human life. If you do not support a ceasefire and to end aid to Israel, you support genocide. Simple truth. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Matthew Heinrichs, and I'm a member of the Champaign-Urbana community. I was also in the GEO process for getting a ceasefire statement passed there back in December. It was a long process, and I do not envy the position you are in. However, I do ask that you please remember that the majority of the community here is asking you for a clear statement that supports ceasefire and no more U.S. financial aid to the Israeli military. I believe that we need to think about the lessons from our ancestors and the hopes we have for our descendants. The lessons from our ancestors is that never again should genocide happen, including in Gaza, to anyone, ever. And that there is no peace with bombs. Our descendants, what do we hope for them? What world do we want for the future? Again, there is no peace with bombs. To end my time, none of us is free until Palestine is free.
Hi, thank you so much for extending the meeting and for taking the time to listen to us. I think my name is Catherine Solorzano-Lowell. I'm a resident of Urbana. Pardon me, sorry. Thank you. I guess I want to start by just saying we can debate the word genocide, but I don't think Raphael Lemkin came up with the word genocide so that hairs could be split, so we could decide exactly when we would step in as a society to stop atrocities. And then because I think a matter of facts were brought up, the issue of facts were brought up, and I want to just say, I think the facts that are important to me are these. One is that there's over 2 million people right now that are living, and we hope living, in Gaza. Two, over 40% of those people are children. They're under 18. The Norwegian Refugee Council and many other organizations right now are saying in their reports, on their websites, that millions of people are at imminent risk of starvation and violence. I would add to that another factor that we need to consider, since there has been no potable water for many people living there, is disease. And prior to this, a very large percentage of children were dying because of waterborne diseases. I can't remember the exact numbers. It might be something of like 12%, which is much higher than it ever should be. It's higher now. So when I say that, I just want to also point out, Anne Frank died most likely in a concentration camp because of disease. Nobody says, she was a casualty of disease. They say something else, and rightfully so. The US government for decades has helped fund the weapons that are now preventing food, water, fuel, and the development of critical electrical power plants necessary to have water sanitation, necessary to have basic functions in the hospitals, from being developed, being brought in as emergency aid to Gaza. People are saying over and over again from a vast number of reputable organizations, they can't bring in the food safely that people need so that they will not starve. And again, we're talking about 2 million people, many at risk of starvation as we speak. And there are things that we can do to stop this because it is our money that was used to do this. And this makes us all essentially complicit. So that's why people are coming here to speak out, because I think we feel personally responsible for what is happening. If I had a friend that was about to starve, that was about to engage in an action that would result in the death of God knows what percentage of people, but was actively playing a role in the starvation of 2 million people, and even if it was a very good friend, especially if it was a very good friend, I would talk to them and I would
your time's up. Thank you.
ask them to stop. Thank you. But that's why Compassion is calling us to ask to defund. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Elizabeth Soteropoulos, and I am a resident of Champaign-Urbana, and I serve a lot of Urbana students. I want to begin tonight with a bunch of thank yous. I want to thank everyone who has been showing up, whether tonight is your first time showing up or you've been showing up since the beginning of January. Thank you. This is really hard. It's really hard to speak into a microphone. I've watched so many people's hands shaking as they are speaking the truth. Thank you for your courage. And thank you to those of you who have been fasting all day and you've sacrificed time with your family during a very holy month. Thank you for being here. And thank you to all of you. I want to thank Mayor Diane, because a few months ago you said this conversation would divide us, and you asked for this conversation to be taken off you asked for the resolution to be taken off the agenda. You asked us to not have this conversation. You said it would divide us, but we've built community, we've built coalition, we've built friendships and relationships with each other. Like, this is the community I want to live in. Yeah. And also, I don't mind if you all clap, please. This is all of us for all of us. But yes.
I'm sorry, there's been an internal error. You will be disconnected now. Goodbye.
And thank you to you too. But no. This has brought us together. It's grown our numbers, and I want to thank you for that. And I hope that you can learn from our courage. You're welcome to borrow as much of it as you need. Join us. Come out to our next actions. I want to thank Council members Chris Evans and Grace Wilkin for all of your support and for coming out to events to learn more about Palestine and to learn more about what we're fighting for. And thank you to Jaya Colasetti for moving to extend our time to speak so that everybody gets a chance. I want to invite everyone here to look at the diversity of who is speaking, who really represents Urbana. Look at the diversity of who's coming up to protests and rallies. Look at who's committed acts of violence, which I personally have witnessed literally in front of me. This morning, I watched a video of a mother who had gone out to find flour, and she came home to find that her house had been flattened and her children were killed inside. And I just think of the times that I ran out to the store right quick because we were out of milk, and my kids were safe and sound at home playing, Roblox. How many mothers don't have that tonight? A few days ago, the IDF transported orphan children from Gaza to the West Bank at the direction of Germany. Lots of things come to mind for me when I say that, and I'll email you my comments. Thank you so much.
My name is Mayan Weinberg. I am the executive director of the Champaign-Urbana Jewish Federation. I want to thank those of the community members who took the time to put together the resolution that is on the agenda today, who spent weeks calling for public input to come and sit down and have conversations. I also want to communicate to the City Council that I have spent weeks on the phone and meeting in person with community members who have said, I just can't come to City Council. I can't be in that presence. I'm too scared. I also want to communicate that many of the individuals that you've heard from that have asked you to consider the resolution in the language that is there are also Israelis or members of the Jewish community that have deep ties to Israel. There are also Israelis and members of the Jewish community who have spent not months, but years or their entire life actively supporting and fighting for a two-state solution, building coalitions, and funding or fundraising for organizations such as Yad V'Yad, which is Hand in Hand, and others that work for a progressive Israel. You are not going to find an individual who has spoken to you on behalf of this resolution who is anti-Palestinian. We have only been given that label by others in the room. Thank you for considering the resolution in the language as it stands.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm here to speak on the resolution, here to speak in favor of including ceasefire and ending all military aid to Israel immediately. Now, I'm from Mexico. What the hell does Mexico have to do with this conflict? This is very far in Latin America, I might tell you, from Palestine. But my family crossed a border that was patrolled by U.S.
Sir,
drones.
could you speak into the mic so your voice is recorded and the people at home can hear it? Thank you.
Saying I was from Mexico. My family crossed a border, the U.S.-Mexico border, while they were policed for drones. Those drones were created at the university that I worked for. Now, I only recently moved to Urbana-Champaign. I'm actually still a student of the University of California, San Diego. So those drones were developed at the university that I paid for. They were tested where? I might beg you to implore you to look up where a lot of military equipment is tested, battle tested. And a lot of that happens not just in Palestine, but specifically in Gaza. Weapons now that are being used in the genocide against Palestinians in Gaza will be used tomorrow against other people. That is a guarantee. Because that drone that went from my university to Palestine to the border was then deployed where? In the city of Los Angeles by the LAPD to police black and brown people in that neighborhood. Immigrants, refugees, all people of color. Our lives are at stake by this terrorist organization, a terrorist state named Israel. Now, that's what that is. That's my personal opinion. Of course. But the fact of the matter is that Israel has killed 30,000 people. Now, I've seen personally, sure, on social media, but I've seen more dead babies in the last 5 months to radicalize me 1,000 times over, to fuel a fucking fire in my heart. Now, you all look at me with the blank stare like you don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. That's wrong. Now, there's a great man. Now, Zionists love to remove history, put it to the side. Now, I'm a historian. I'm working on a PhD in history. I actually know my shit. And there was a man who died, one of the most hated people in American history, while he was alive. He had a quote, said, "Peace is not the absence of tension. Peace is the presence of justice." You all, that resolution they wrote is something that seeks to move tension aside, move it to the backward. And I don't give a shit about all that. I want justice. Those 30,000 people are never coming back. But we can prevent the next 30,000 people from dying tonight if you all decide to do so. Now do it. The person who I was talking about was Martin Luther King Jr. And he died, the most unpopular person and almost in all of U.S. history, because he opposed the war in Vietnam. He died by a bullet of our federal government as he was supporting striking workers in... Look it up. I beg you to look it up.
Okay. That will end public comment and we'll move on. That will end public comment and we'll move on to council input and communications. Grace.
Just want to say thanks again for members of the public continuing to come out and share your thoughts and send emails from all your diverse perspectives and opinions here. I'll save some of my thoughts on the issue that most people are here about tonight. But while I have just the few minutes that I get to talk about anything I'd like, I would also encourage people to follow some of our other business. I don't think it has to be a threat that you're going to come back and follow the progressions about policing in our community. I welcome that. I think that that would be great. I encourage people to follow along with other local issues past what a lot of people are here for tonight. Thank you.
Jaya.
Yeah, I think similarly, appreciate people continuing to talk to us and spend their time with us, and I'll hold some of my comments for later on that too. I would like an update from city staff on where things are in terms of looking at a parking lot for the skateboarders. Like to hear where things are with that, and also say that I know that it's something that city staff have been looking into. And I also just want to acknowledge all the pain in the room. I don't have a good solution for that beyond what we're here to discuss. The conversations are important, they're painful, they're hard. I know it's hard to have us just sit here and listen, but that's what public comment is for. We are here to listen to you. It doesn't mean that we're not paying attention. It doesn't mean that we don't care. And I know this has been a slow process, and I appreciate everyone continuing to show up, continuing to send emails. I was away for a bit and came back to over 2,000 emails. We do look at those, and that's not one side. It's not one perspective. I think it's important to share that because I hear people saying, why is this so hard? Why is this taking so long? Because this is a global issue that we're trying to figure out. How do we navigate this at our community level? What does healing for our community look like when there's so much pain that people are expressing? How do we find something that is representative of such a diverse range of opinions on something that is critical and deserves attention beyond just lip service or passing something to be one of however many number of cities taking one stance or not taking a stance? So while we will continue this conversation later tonight, I just wanted to share that I think that we as a community have a lot of healing to do. I think that the city has a role in that, and I think that's something that needs to take place outside of council chambers as well, where there can be actual dialogue and not just an opportunity for people to speak 3 minutes at a time.
Any other council comments? Chris?
Yeah, I heard Don Owen loud and clear that the 3-month delay is poor leadership. I'd like to plead guilty. Here's what happened. I need to explain and give account. I simply did not know the rules. I always thought that I had to have 2 sponsors to put anything on the agenda. And I believed that for a while until I actually looked up the rules, and the clerk confirmed that, in fact, I could have put the resolution that Bennett wrote on the agenda for a vote much earlier, much sooner. And I could have done it by myself. And so I want to apologize to all of you that I just dropped the ball and goofed. So that's all I got to say.
Any other comments? I just have a couple of announcements and then we'll move on to business. I wanted to let people know that the city of Urbana will be joining other local governments to protest the proposed rate hike by the Illinois American Water that was proposed a few weeks ago. As in the past, the city of Champaign is going to take the lead. We'll be engaging outside attorney to put this case together. There will be an IGA, intergovernmental agreement, eventually brought to council to approve the arrangement with the attorneys, and the city of Urbana will be sharing the costs of that protest. Secondly, last week we had our first official meeting with the Chicago office of the Census Bureau. We're beginning planning for the partial special census that'll be taking place in the fall of 2024. First order of business in the next 2 to 3 months will be recruiting for people to work for the census, local employees. To be a census worker, you will be a federal employee paid for using local funds. The cost of this special census is entirely borne by local government. But that process is going to get underway soon. And then third, the Legal department has finished review of the proposed ward maps. Some of you may remember we're in the process, we need to redraw our city council ward boundaries based on the 2020 census. We had an open process. We had 7 different maps submitted. Those have been reviewed. And we will present all the maps, and the first order of business will be a discussion about the public review process going forward. But that's where we stand with the ward maps, and the goal is to have those maps approved by May. And so that's a big step forward. And lastly, as far as skate parks go, I appreciate the presentation that was given tonight. The first choice of their parking lot is actually the one we've been discussing internally as a good place to experiment with. We've had conversations with the Park District for some short-term and longer-term approaches, and we'll be pursuing that. And I don't know, Carol, did we want to add anything else from our conversation?
I guess what I want to say is that after the last time this was before council, we did meet with the Park District so that we could understand things from their perspective, since they're the ones who provide recreation and they're actually staffed to do it. They have skilled staff to do it, and they also have the liability insurance associated with sponsoring those kinds of things. So one of the things that we had talked about was if we made a space like a parking lot available, would the Park District be able to take that on and operate that as a space? And they do not have the capacity to do that. They struggle with the same things with staffing that we do. I think people are aware of the fact that there's a plan to include a skate park at the Health and Wellness Center. The first order of business is to get the building itself completed, and then the first exterior priority is for a playground, spray ground, and then the skate park will follow that. So they don't have the funding for any of the exterior, and there was a concern that the Park District staff had expressed to us that having another facility, another skate park in Urbana would actually hurt their grant eligibility to get funding for the permanent location at the Health and Wellness Center. But they said they did have limited staff capacity so that we could do a couple of pop-ups over the summer, and I know that's not what the group is looking for, but we have TIF dollars that we can help support that effort, and so we're going to work in collaboration with the Park District on that. But yeah, I think that's basically what we learned from them. So we did explore it with them, but I don't have any good solution to offer other than we'll eventually have a skate park at the Health and Wellness Center.
But there could be some short-term pop-ups. Yes.
Carol, you said the Park District has legal liability. Why can't we?
I suppose we could, but that is not the business that the city of Urbana is in. And so I think that's opening up a whole different area of responsibility for us. We're not staffed for it either. And I think the idea is I got the impression it might be useful to have, I didn't ask this question directly of the Park District, but I don't think just simply turning over the space to someone else is in the best interest of everyone involved. Because I think there needs to be some programming, I think there needs to be some kind of controls.
But we will explore some of the activities this summer in that space, the parking lot that was identified. We need to, this is, okay. Did you want to speak? Oh, go ahead.
I'll follow up.
Okay, sorry. We'll move on to Committee of the Whole, reports of the Standing Committee. Chandra?
On behalf of the Committee of the Whole, I present the consent agenda, ordinance number 2024-03-012, an ordinance amending Urbana City Code, Chapter 3, Section 3-43, maintaining the number of Class GC liquor licenses for Troon Beverages, Inc., doing business as Atkins Golf Club at the University of Illinois, 2600 Stone Creek Boulevard, Urbana, Illinois. Ordinance number 2024-03-013, an ordinance vacating a street and alley, North Cottage Grove Avenue and East-West Alley between Hickory Street and North Cottage Grove Avenue, both north of East Park Street. And lastly, resolution number 2024-03-012R, a resolution authorizing execution of an intergovernmental agreement for residential electronics waste collection.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Chandra, seconded by Mary Alice. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Miss Wu?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Miss Hersey?
Yes.
Miss Colasetti?
Yes.
Miss Bishop?
Yes.
Miss Wilkin?
Yes.
Mr. Quisenberry?
Yes.
That motion passes.
And on the regular agenda, first item is ordinance number 2024-03-011, an ordinance revising the annual budget ordinance, budget amendment number 7, omnibus.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Chandra, seconded by Sharice. Is there any discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Miss Wu?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Miss Hersey?
Yes.
Miss Colasetti?
Yes.
Miss Bishop?
Yes.
Miss Wilkin?
Yes.
Mr. Quisenberry?
Yes.
Mayor Marlin?
Yes. That motion passes.
Lastly, resolution number 2024-03-013R, a resolution calling for the end of the Gaza war and lasting peace.
Is there a second? Moved by Chandra, seconded by James. Is there Chris?
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to amend resolution number 2024-03-013R, a resolution calling for the end of the Gaza war and a lasting peace. Be it moved that in the sixth resolve of the resolution be changed to say, call the United States government and international community to stop funding weapons of war to Israel so as to create conditions for reconciliation between Israel and Palestine, which is the foundation for a just, secure, and lasting peace.
Second.
Moved by Chris, seconded by Grace. So we have a motion on the floor and a proposed amendment, so we'll discuss the amendment first. Do you want to speak to your amendment?
I think it's been spoken for 2 hours.
Any other discussion? Will the clerk please
Wait,
call?
Oh, wait. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I was just trying to read the actual thing. I gave you one. Oh, I apologize. Okay.
Ready?
Wu?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Miss Hersey?
Yes.
Miss Colasetti?
Yes.
Miss Bishop?
Yes.
Miss Wilkin?
Yes.
Mr. Quisenberry?
Yes.
That motion passes.
None of this means anything.
And we will move on to the main motion. And just to clarify, the amendment that was made last week reads as follows. There was some difficulty in transcribing exactly what was passed, but I believe this is accurate. Number 2, under resolved, call for a just and lasting peace between Israel and Palestine, starting with an immediate and permanent cessation of violence between Israel and Hamas, along with the delivery of urgently needed humanitarian aid to Gaza as a necessary step in that process. So on the floor is the main resolution. Any discussion? Grace.
Thank you. I appreciate that there was support for some of those amendments. This is, complex and simple in a lot of ways, a lot of history here. I do support peace and against cycles of violence, creating more violence. I think that justifying violence from violence is just not a cycle that's going to get us far as a world. Against Islamophobia and anti-Semitism, and I think that we need to acknowledge and do our part to speak out about the current humanitarian crisis in Palestine. I don't love the process or this compromise on this resolution. I'm not a fan of the title of calling it a Gaza war, not including ceasefire language, but I will accept it rather than nothing, and I know that people have grown weary and frustrated from the delays here, so we'll take it, and I do really appreciate people who have spoken out, people who have worked on it, worked on other versions. I think that it is really important to try to come together as a community and be an example of what we want to see around the world. Also, just did want to clarify a point that, to my understanding, it's the city of Urbana does not collect your tax money and then give it to the U.S. military. That's just not how it works. As far as I know, we can't say, this is how the federal government should deal with their taxes. That's not an option we have on the table to say that we'll just stop supporting that and use it for local issues. I agree with on the bigger picture, those ideas of where we're prioritizing, but I think that is something you're going to have to take up with the federal government. Just wanted to clarify that, to my understanding, that's not directly how it works and not within the purview of Urbana. So I do support this version. With a kind of best we'll probably get at this point kind of scenario. Appreciate people coming out, and I do hope that it can add to some healing globally and locally the best that we can. So thank you.
Any other comments? James.
I just want to echo what my colleague Grace here has said. This resolution is not perfect. It includes things that some people don't want to see included. It omits things that other people would like to see included. But if it gets a step towards answering some of the pain and concern and trauma that our residents are feeling in light of this, I will support it. I think it is an important change to recognize that what has gone on has cost a vast number of civilian lives, and that could have been avoided through various means. And so I'm going to support this as it is in its imperfection, as an attempt to represent the common voice that we've heard over the past 9 weeks.
Any other comments? So we have the motion by Chandra, the second by James. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Miss Wu?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Miss Hersey?
Yes.
Miss Colasetti?
Yes.
Miss Bishop?
Yes.
Miss Wilkin?
Yes.
Mr. Quisenberry?
Yes.
That motion passes unanimously. We have another meeting to conduct tonight, so I would ask you to step outside, or you can continue observing the committee of the whole meeting.
Was this one adjourned? I didn't hear over things. Did you
Do
adjourn
we
this
have
one?
reports of officers?
Yeah. Reports of officers? None. This meeting is adjourned.